The story begins at the Superpower Academy, where our protagonist, Ningfeng, is standing in the middle of the yard, playing and having a great time with his phone. Suddenly, as he's playing, his friend, Wang Ji, slaps him across the face so hard that it knocks him to the ground. She then yells at him, asking why he's messing around when the awakening test is about to start. Ningfeng, laughing, tells her not to worry since he's already 18 and is likely to pass the test and awaken as a star, unlike her, who awakened at 16 with a full 5 stars. He places his hand on her shoulder and tells her that he doesn't need to work hard because he'll definitely rely on his talent in the future. Wang Ji gets annoyed by his words and starts choking him with her hands, saying, "Who told you I'd ever let you rely on me?" Meanwhile, people around them are surprised by their interaction. When they look at them, they realize the girl is Wang Ji, known for being both powerful and beautiful. They're also shocked to see Ningfeng standing next to her, not believing that someone as weak as him could be with someone as beautiful as Wang Ji. But in the end, we find out they've been friends since childhood. The scene shifts to the testing area, which has a sign on the door saying the awakened support, magic, agility, strength. Ningfeng is in line, feeling frustrated. Thinking to himself about how this is the 3rd time he's taken the test, he wonders if he will finally succeed. At that moment, the teacher, named Chi, addresses the students and announces that the person whose name she calls out will come forward to be tested. She reveals that the people chosen for practical testing will be assessed right then and there. She calls out Ningfeng's name, and the students start laughing because they all know that he's just a failure. However, Ningfeng doesn't care about their mockery. He walks up to the crystal, uninterested, and places his hand on it. To his surprise, it starts glowing. Teacher Chi notices this and thinks to herself that it must mean Ningfeng has awakened, and the blue color indicates he's joined the wizard class. The big question now is how many stars he'll get. The result is disappointing though Ningfeng only gets 1 star. His classmates continue to mock him, but Ningfeng stays focused. Teacher Chi hands him the tools for the practical test, and as he's about to enter, something strange happens. A window appears in front of him, stating that all conditions have been met and that the system is now activating. Ningfeng is confused but learns that he's acquired a negative secret skill, which will prevent him from suffering violent reactions when exposed to dark forces. He also receives a gift, the ability to use forbidden spells once a week without using energy. Ningfeng is shocked because the dark power is supposed to be the most evil force in the world, and the forbidden spells are supposed to be the highest level for wizards. The system continues, and Ningfeng learns that his previously acquired skill, Mud Swamp, has been transformed into another skill called Corrupted Earth Projectile. Ningfeng is nervous but hopes things will go well enough to pass the practical tests. The gate to the testing area opens, and Teacher Chi explains that 50 students will enter in groups, each facing monsters to assess their abilities. She warns them not to form teams and that everyone must fight alone. Ningfeng gets ready to enter, and through the window, we see he now has the Corrupted Earth Projectile skill, which allows him to summon dark power from another world to create a protective shield and destroy anything in his path. He's worried about using the forbidden spell because it's evil, and if anyone sees him using it, he'll be in big trouble. As the other students enter the field, they begin using their powers to fight goblins. Meanwhile, Ningfeng hides behind a tree, observing the situation. He realizes that since the drones are gone, he can now use his forbidden spell without being watched. At this moment, Captain Ashen notices Ningfeng hiding and asks Teacher Chi why he's not fighting like the others. Teacher Chi explains that Ningfeng is weak and his only skill is defensive, which won't allow him to attack. Captain Ashen gets frustrated and asks for Ningfeng to be pulled out of the test. However, suddenly, the screen monitor shows something unusual. A drone has been attacked, and the energy readings are extremely high. Captain Ashen demands immediate investigation. Back in the field, a student is on the ground, terrified, and a powerful goblin appears. It's a terrifying monster with claws. The goblin kills the student immediately and then orders the other goblins to follow his lead and eliminate all intruders. The goblin notices a drone above and destroys it with his claws, and the drone crashes, hitting Ningfeng, who is in pain but also confused. He looks ahead and is shocked to see a huge number of goblins appearing in the forest. As the goblins prepare to attack, Ningfeng smiles and thinks that since the drones are gone, this is the perfect time to use his dark powers. He raises his hand with excitement and activates the forbidden spell. The powerful goblin is terrified and retreats in fear. Meanwhile, Captain Ashen is shocked because the monitor shows a dark power has appeared, likely a monster of king level or higher. Teacher Chi is also surprised because she knows that a king level monster could destroy an entire city on its own. She can't understand how such a powerful creature appeared in a beginner's test world. Back in the field, Ningfeng is amazed by the power of his forbidden spell, as it destroys the goblins. He keeps killing goblins and gaining experience points, finally defeating the powerful goblin and earning 6,000 experience points. He's thrilled to see his level increase by 10 levels. Ningfeng reflects on how the experience points from the normal goblins were minimal, and his level up was mostly due to the powerful goblin. He's confused about how such a monster appeared in a training world. Just then, an explosion occurs in front of him, and he sees two golden level items dropped by the powerful goblin. He's happy because they're strong, but decides to sell one of them since he can't use it. He's excited because if he continues at this pace, he'll level up quickly and become rich. However, Captain Ashen suddenly orders everyone in the test world to use their teleportation scrolls and exit immediately. Ningfeng is confused by the sudden evacuation when he looked around the place before leaving. He was shocked to see it was filled with traps because of the forbidden spell he had used. Immediately, he took out a teleportation scroll and activated it quickly to escape before anyone discovered what he had done. The other students who were present did the same to leave quickly, as the captain had instructed. As soon as they exited, the captain stood before them and ordered them to leave the building immediately and return to their city. Afterward, the captain, visibly upset, muttered to himself, "Even if everyone here worked together, we'd never be able to fight a monster at the king level." He continued to think about whether the reinforcements would arrive in time or not, but suddenly, he froze in his place as he sensed the world's energy shift once again. To his surprise, the dark force had completely vanished. He breathed a sigh of relief, assuming that the king monster had left the world, and decided to head back to the city. Meanwhile, when the teacher learned what had happened, she became very tense and immediately activated countermeasures, temporarily shutting down the academy until this disaster was over. Some time later, Feng took Wang along with him. While they were walking, he said to her, "It looks like the teacher is facing a very strong enemy." He asked her what was happening there. Wang replied, "I heard a strange power was discovered in the test world, so the academy has been surrounded and completely locked down." Feng pondered her words and wondered to himself whether the strange power they mentioned was the strong goal he had encountered. Wang noticed his silence and thought he was upset because his awakening had been unfortunate. She tried to comfort him, saying, "Don't worry, defensive spells can protect you, but they won't be enough for you to enter the monster realm alone. That's why, starting tomorrow, you're supposed to join my team." Feng was surprised and refused her offer with a confident laugh, saying, "Don't worry about me. I can take care of myself." However, deep down, he thought, "I really want to join her team, but unfortunately, I have a forbidden spell, so I can't reveal my magic to anyone." Suddenly, Wang shouted at him, saying, "You're not allowed to refuse. I'll be waiting for you tomorrow at 8 a.m. at the Western Gate." Feng yelled back, trying to change her mind, but she ignored him and walked away. Feng felt trapped and didn't know what to do. He thought, "Maybe I can pretend to be sick to get out of this situation," but quickly dismissed the idea as ineffective. Against her, another idea struck him, and he decided to act on it. That evening, he went to the Awakened store to buy a weapon with a pre-installed skill, intending to pretend he was using it. As he entered the store, he thought, "I hope the system doesn't convert this weapon skill into another forbidden spell." While he was there, he decided to sell the items he had collected from the powerful ghoul. Upon entering, the receptionist greeted him and asked how she could assist. Feng explained that he needed an item related to the swamp spell he possessed. Whether it was a weapon, clothing, or anything else. The receptionist welcomed him warmly and mentioned they had many high-level items with pre-installed skills, perfect for new awakened individuals to level up. Feng declined immediately, saying he didn't need powerful items as he'd only be using them temporarily. The receptionist grew irritated upon realizing he wasn't planning to purchase anything significant and walked away, saying she wouldn't waste her time with a broke person like him. She left him to the new employee to assist. The new employee helped Feng try out various weapons with the specifications he requested until he finally chose a ring. He was delighted with it, and when the employee saw him happy, she asked if he liked it. Feng thanked her, saying it was perfect. Then he asked about a place to sell his items. She directed him to the appraisal section, where he was greeted by the manager, Zhang Peng. Feng handed over the claw he had and asked Zhang to appraise it. The manager was astonished by its properties and told Feng that many people would be interested in buying some. Hing liked that. Zhang asked if Feng had a specific price in mind. Feng left and replied that he wanted to sell it at the highest price possible. Zhang followed through and asked his assistant to assist Feng while he stepped into another room to contact a potential buyer, a wealthy client looking for an item for his son. After some time, Zhang returned and informed Feng that the buyer had agreed to purchase the claw for 50,000 crystals. Both Feng and the assistant were shocked by the hefty sum. Zhang explained that Feng would receive 46,000 crystals after deducting an 8% transaction fee. Feng signed the contract, and the money was instantly transferred to him. Feng was amazed by the speed of the transaction and felt pleased since he planned to buy more items. Meanwhile, the first receptionist, who had initially ignored Feng, was with her colleagues. When they learned Feng had sold something for 50,000 crystals and was now buying items, she regretted her earlier decision. The receptionist's colleagues teased her, asking why she rejected Feng even though she usually liked good-looking customers. She replied arrogantly, "I only like rich people. As for poor folks like him, they're not worth my time." While they were talking, they were shocked to see Zhang Ping walking alongside Feng himself. They couldn't understand why. One of them smiled and explained, "I heard he sold something for 50,000 crystals and is planning to buy more items from the store." The receptionist regretted her decision deeply and felt embarrassed about how she had treated Feng earlier. Meanwhile, Feng finished everything he needed at the store. As he was leaving, the employee who had helped him introduced herself as Ying Shen. She told him, "Next time you come, feel free to ask for me directly. I'll be happy to help you with anything." Time passed, and the next day arrived. Feng put on the new gear he had bought and walked confidently, humming a song. This caught the attention of everyone around him, who stared at him curiously. The reason behind his mood became clear. He had tested all the items he purchased the night before and discovered that the system didn't interfere with them. Relieved that no one could uncover his secret, Feng was finally at ease at this point. He reached Wan, who was surprised to see him since she didn't expect him to show up. After greeting her, she introduced him to the rest of the team: Shield Warrior, the Mage, the Fierce Knight, and the Priestess. Feng was thrilled to meet them but was soon shocked by their hostile reactions. They clearly didn't want someone as weak as him on their team. The Shield Warrior spoke to Wan, asking if it was true that she was close to reaching her second transformation, as rumors suggested. Feng was surprised to learn that the second transformation could only be achieved every 30 levels, which meant Wan had reached level 60. The Shield Warrior then pulled out an agility potion from his bag, explaining, "I wanted to give you this as a gift." Both the Priestess and the Fierce Knight were amazed because they knew how rare such potions were. The Priestess asked if it was expensive. The Shield Warrior laughed and replied, "The cost doesn't matter. This type of potion is incredibly hard to find, even if you have the money for it. My father had to call in a favor from some influential friends to get it." Wan thanked him for the gesture but refused the potion, saying, "I don't need it. You should keep it." The Shield Warrior was furious and shouted, "Are you really going to waste your future over someone as useless as him?" Wang glared at him angrily and warned him to watch his words. Unfazed, the shield warrior mocked Feng again, calling him trash with a 1-star rating. He continued, "A potion like this is worth more than your entire being. I'm not saying anything wrong. It's just the truth." Feng was deeply frustrated by the shield warrior's unprovoked insults. He considered using a forbidden spell on him but quickly dismissed the idea. The priestess tried to calm the situation, but the shield warrior yelled at her to stay out of it. Turning back to Feng, the shield warrior sneered, "This potion bottle alone is worth more than your whole existence." Finally, Feng decided to stand up for himself. He smirked and retorted, "You're like a rabid dog, biting people for no reason. And all this over a potion that only increases agility by 3 points." The shield warrior gets extremely angry at his words, reaching his limit. At that moment, the magician intervenes in the conversation and sarcastically tells Feng, laughing, "Since when did you become so overconfident? If you're going to mock him, you'd better have something stronger than that potion." The shield warrior agrees and says to Feng, "If you really manage to show something better than the potion, I'm ready to bow to you right now. But if you've got nothing, it's better for you to kneel down and apologize." Before he could finish his words, he was shocked when Feng took out a golden tier item and gave it to Wang as a gift. Everyone was stunned upon seeing it, unable to believe that he had an item capable of increasing power by 10 points. Wang decided to use it, and her abilities indeed increased, which left the shield warrior in disbelief. He accused Feng of stealing it, but Feng ignored him and reminded him of their wager. The shield warrior refused to follow through, but when Wang threatened him to reconsider, he reluctantly agreed. Clearly upset, Feng was delighted to have humiliated him and bid them farewell before leaving. While they were walking, Wang wanted to apologize for what happened, but Feng interrupted her, saying, "Don't worry about it. I don't care about such things. Honestly, you don't need to follow me through any gates anymore. I'd prefer you focus on improving your level to reach the second transformation and, eventually, get into the university you want." He continued to think silently, "This way, I can level up more comfortably without her around." Wang refused to let him go, saying, "Don't lose hope in yourself. You can become strong too." Feng looked at her with frustration and replied, "Who said I was going to give up?" Suddenly, they were interrupted by something purple. Feng started flipping through skill books, finding that most were purple tier. He gratefully accepted the gift, feeling delighted. The scene then shifted to the secret world's ocean near the dangerous tomb, where countless zombie monsters emerged from the ground. Wang picked up her bow and started taking them down one by one while Feng sat nearby cheering her on after each kill. At the same time, he felt frustrated because the experience points in this world were too low. Still, he couldn't let Wang know he had reached level 10. Eventually, Feng decided to stay idle. At that moment, Wang's phone rang, and when she answered, a priestess informed her that the Necromancer boss had appeared. The priestess asked if Wang wanted to join. The shield warrior interjected, insisting that Wang must come because they couldn't defeat the boss without her. He added that such a monster would likely drop rare magical items, which would be beneficial to him as a magician. Wang hesitated, but Feng reassured her, "Go ahead and don't worry about me. We're both in the secret world, and I can level up here." Wang told him to wait for her in the safe zone until she returned. Feng agreed, looking pleased. As he finally had the chance to face the big boss alone, he thought to himself, "Luckily, I prepared yesterday and learned 2 extra skills. But unfortunately, I can only equip 3 skills, so I can't use the books Wang gave me until I reach level 15. The scene shifted to the gate where the boss resided, surrounded by countless zombies. A team watched from above, with the leader remarking, "The boss likely resides deep within the tall tower. We'll need to fight our way there." However, they were surprised to see another powerful team had already advanced. They realized it was Wang's team and decided to avoid interfering. Meanwhile, Wang's team fought fiercely. The priestess asked the berserker if he noticed a change in Wang's power. He confirmed, saying her abilities had increased by 10 points inside the tower. Feng used forbidden magic, spatial sorcery, to teleport himself directly into the tower's depths, bypassing all the zombies outside. Upon entering the hall, the boss began to form in front of him. The boss taunted Feng. "You took your time getting here." The boss was shocked to see Feng, and immediately charged at him, yelling, "How dare a reckless adventurer like you come here alone without a team?" The boss's initial attack caused an explosion but didn't harm Feng, who had already dodged. The boss, confused, couldn't locate Feng, who reappeared behind him, saying, "I don't have a team because I don't like sharing loot." Feng then unleashed another forbidden spell, Meteor, raining down smart rocks that completely destroyed the boss and the tower. Feng emerged from the rubble, thrilled to have gained massive experience points, instantly reaching level 30. A system message appeared, informing him that during the transformation, he could unlock the hidden quest for Death Sorcerer or the primary quest for Elemental Sorcerer. Excited by the rarity of hidden quests, Feng wondered if his items were the key to activating the hidden profession. He used the Meteor skill again to clear the remaining zombies and gain more experience points. The attack affected Wang and her team, who were baffled by the terrifying magic. Wang decided to retreat, but the shield warrior objected, prioritizing his interests over the team's safety. Wang scolded him, saying, "You're putting the team at risk for your selfish gain." Disheartened by the failed plan, the shield warrior cursed his bad luck. Wang, concerned, tried to warn Feng, only to find he had already messaged her, saying he had left the world to handle important matters. Feng then headed to the transformation base. Upon entering, he was surprised to find it empty except for a receptionist. She confirmed his purpose and guided him to the sorcery transformation room. After providing his details, she left him to follow the procedures. Meanwhile, a captain arrived at the receptionist's desk. Frustrated, he reported that the dangerous tomb had been completely destroyed and speculated the damage was caused by a king-level threat or higher. The receptionist was shocked, asking how the king-level threats could appear within 2 days. The captain replied that it was unusual and revealed that he had been sent to request immediate action from the Shadow Ones. Back in the transformation room, Feng was torn between 2 quests but ultimately chose the Advanced Universal Sorcerer quest. He considered himself lucky to have 3 days to complete it, giving him ample time. While leaving the building, he bids farewell to the receptionist with a smile, but then immediately looks at her in confusion because she isn't the same receptionist who greeted him earlier. The scene then shifts to a cave deep within the Rocky Mountains, where a soldier is excited because it's his first time meeting a member of the Lone Shadows. However, the captain silences him, reminding him that this organization is highly secretive, and no one should know about it. The soldier tells the captain that he heard rumors about the Lone Shadows possessing hidden professions that allow them to use dark powers, making them specialists in difficult missions. At that moment, the receptionist arrives, and it becomes clear that she is also a member of the Lone Shadows. However, she appears to be in great pain, suffering from a severe headache caused by the dark power affecting her. She reports to the captain, saying that after her research, she found no clues whatsoever. It seems the one responsible for the destruction disappeared immediately after causing it, making it impossible to determine their motives. The captain replies, saying that recently he's been receiving regular reports about strange forces appearing in the hidden realms, which makes him suspect these events might be the precursor to some catastrophic event. He then asks her if there's any connection between these occurrences. She replies that she can't determine anything yet but will contact the higher-ups and ask them to increase the number of soldiers. At this point, the soldier chimes in and asks if they're sure this strange force isn't caused by an unawakened monster. The receptionist responds firmly that it's impossible, as the threat has been identified as king-level power no human body could withstand. The soldier then concludes that an extraordinary monster must be present in the city, capable of causing a catastrophe at any moment. The receptionist confirms this, stating that they must find it as soon as possible to prevent disaster. The scene transitions back to Feng, who has already returned home. He decides to study the skill books given to him by Wang, especially since he unlocked 4 additional skill slots after reaching level 30. He begins reading the books, thrilled to acquire new skills, and even more excited when they integrate perfectly with his old skills, leaving his 4 new slots still available. Having finished the books, Feng decides to visit the store again to buy more. After some time, he arrives at the store, where the girl who insulted him last time notices him immediately. This time, however, she doesn't repeat her mistake and rushes to welcome him. Feng ignores her and asks about Yingxin, but the girl informs him that she's currently busy with another customer. Ignoring the girl, Feng decides to browse the store alone. Annoyed by his behavior, the girl doesn't give up and follows him, offering to help him. Just as she finishes speaking, she freezes in shock upon seeing Yingxin rushing toward Feng, apologizing profusely for the delay. She explains that she left her lunch immediately upon learning that he had arrived. This, of course, enrages the initial receptionist, who is now fuming with jealousy. Later, Feng and Yingxin head to Director Zhang's office, where Feng sells him to skill books from Wang, stating that he plans to buy some equipment while Zhang evaluates the books. Zhang agrees but is intrigued by the weapons and books Feng keeps bringing, deciding to investigate his background further. After finishing his shopping, Feng invites Yingxin to a meal to thank her for her help. When the bill comes, Yingxin surprises him by paying for it herself. Feng, taken aback, asks why she did that when he had planned to treat her. Yingxin responds that she has her reasons but can't share them right now. After their meal, Yingxin leaves in a taxi, heading to the city hospital. During the ride, she reflects emotionally on how Feng's reward last time helped her pay for her father's monthly medical expenses, saving his life. Overwhelmed with gratitude, she begins to cry. Suddenly, the taxi is involved in an accident, shattering the windows. Looking ahead, Yingxin sees that the driver is dead, bleeding profusely, and monsters have started attacking people in the city. Yingxin quickly exits the car to avoid the monsters, but she trips and falls. When she looks up, she sees a humanoid monster emerging from a portal, grinning menacingly at her. She tries to use a fire skill to defend herself, but it's ineffective. Paralyzed with fear, she screams as the monster lunges toward her with all its strength. At the last moment, the captain intervenes, slicing the monster in half with his sword and saving her just in time. The captain reassures Yingxin and instructs her to hide immediately. He then laments the destruction around them, noting that the secret world is merging with the real world, a phenomenon he's never seen before. He also comments on the monsters, which are too powerful for a one-star awakened individual to handle easily. Suddenly, an arm strikes from behind, but the captain dodges it just in time. He turns to face the attacker, asking if they're human or a mutant. The figure, who had been floating earlier, responds arrogantly, saying, "How dare you compare me to that trash? I am the guardian of pure dark power." The captain, hearing this for the first time, is puzzled but wastes no time, charging with his sword. However, the figure counters with a powerful strike, sending the captain flying. Realizing the figure's strength, the captain concludes they must be at least at the 3rd transformation level or higher. The figure laughs wickedly, plunges a finger into the ground, and declares the territory his own. He attacks the captain, again with immense strength, shattering the captain's armor and launching him far away. Just as the figure gloats, a voice emanates from his pendant, reminding him that the dark power he wields isn't his own and that, without it, he's nothing but an insect. The voice commands him to prove himself worthy by sacrificing everyone in the city to dominate the world. Meanwhile, Feng exits the store and is horrified by the chaotic scene and the corpses scattered around. Monster notices Feng and attacks, but Feng quickly uses the Earth Thorn skill to eliminate it effortlessly. Proud of his new skill, Feng muses about how it was worth the money. As he steps outside, he's stunned by the destruction before him. A blue-haired figure approaches him, muttering about insects that haven't yet died. The figure tries to restrain Feng, but Feng activates his dark power, forming a protective shield. This surprises the attacker, who wonders how Feng managed to block his attack. The monster in the pendant, now terrified, warns the attacker that Feng harbors a dark power far greater than its own, radiating an aura more terrifying than death itself. Feng, noticing the dark power within his opponent, detonates his shield, forcing the pendant monster to abandon its host, declaring him useless. Even the remaining city monsters retreat to the portal. Feng uses his Earth Thorn skill again, killing the exhausted figure. Afterward, Feng collects the fallen items and heads home before it gets late. After a while, the agent arrives at the scene, but the girl with her tells her that the monsters have now retreated and the invasion operation is over. The agent is surprised at what happened and asks about the situation in the rest of the city's areas and if they know the reason for the enemy's attack. The girl with the mask leaves her and tells her that the situation is now very safe. But we have suffered heavy losses at the same time in the south of the city, and the current situation is completely incomprehensible. The agent here, as soon as she learns that the south of the city is the one that has suffered heavy losses, becomes very worried about the captain because he was supposed to be there. She immediately asks her to go to this place to explore what happened. After a while, she actually arrives at the scene of the fight, but it varies. One of them examines the body of the person that been killed. So she immediately gets wet while he does so and asks him not to move now and introduces himself. This person calms her down at that time, and we learn that his name is Duen and Pure. The badge he has and reassures him and knows that he is a member of the Cloud World. The agent also explodes when she hears his words and tells him, "But the Cloud World always moves secretly, so how are you here?" Do replies while pointing to the person who was killed and tells her that it was because of him because it was supposed to be him. He was originally a member of our group, but he betrayed the organization. In addition, he also helped the secret world attack our camp, which led to many deaths. He addresses her with a number of words while pointing to him again and asking if she was the one who killed him. But the agent, the receptionist, replies to him and tells him no, and we don't know who did this yet. She then wonders if the invasion of this world actually stopped because of his death. Then she talks to herself and says that the captain had already reached the third transformation, but despite that, he couldn't stand up to him and his army was completely destroyed. At the same time, Do talks to himself. He looked at the person in front of him and he says to himself, this person was very smart and always liked to hide in the shadows of space. And I tried to catch him many times, but he was always able to escape from me. Here, he asks for help, that there is someone who saved them, and if there really was a person with this power in Kenyu City. At this time, we return again to Feng's house, who is flying with joy when he sees the tools that this person dropped. And Bella finds that the two tools are of the gold level and are very good for the fighter class. Then he thinks to himself and says, this person was not wearing them because he probably did not reach the appropriate level, otherwise if he was wearing them, I would have had to use his powerful forbidden spells to be able to defeat him. In addition, the necklace that he was wearing around his neck had a very strange shape, and there was no information about it. He kept shaking his hand while holding this necklace, and he was very upset and wished that there was no power in it. Evil at this time, the owner of the necklace is watching and saying to himself, luckily, the gate closed at the right time and no one was able to discover me. Then, Ving starts to bring the tick close to his eye to examine it. Moreover, this is what makes the monster very terrified and immediately cuts off communication with the necklace so that no one can know his location. He takes a breath and then he can't believe that this matter is over and he still doesn't understand how Veng was able to sense him. After that, we go to the hospital where the captain is being treated. There, the captain tells the receptionist and the person with binoculars about what happened and tells them that there was a young warrior who saved us, and as soon as they saw him, the enemies all fled completely and also closed the transition gates behind them. The receptionist is quickly convinced by his words and says to me, I felt that the strength of this person is not less than me at all. But he interrupts the person with binoculars and tells them how the enemy who remained he has been running away from us for the past period, and none of the powerful warriors were able to catch him. He ends up in a mysterious way like this. The receptionist answers him and tells him that it is possible that there was a person who passed by chance in the battlefield, but nothing more. However, the data of the person who passed by is definitely very strong and is definitely not recorded anywhere. Captain Zo continues her words and tells her that it would be very good if this strong person was living with us now, because just thinking about the subject makes me feel that we will be safe. All the time, the one with the glasses returns to speak again and tells them that I have a good idea, a bit exaggerated at first. Let me ask you if there are supposed to be remnants of the dark forces on the battlefield yesterday. The receptionist answers him and tells him that there will definitely be because after all, the enemies were monsters from the secret world. The person with the glasses continues his words and tells them that what I am going to say is just yes, but nothing more, but it is possible that this very powerful mysterious person is also a mutant. Captain Zo responds to him and tells him that this is impossible, and of course you are exaggerating and thinking now. But the receptionist is thinking to herself at that moment, and is really killing in his words and thanking a certain person. Meanwhile, we move to Feng, who goes to the gate of the mysterious world, and this is to do a mission to change his profession. He actually enters the gate and is brought by the very large Mona in the middle of the world. While he is walking, we discover that there is a mysterious person watching, and the one who appears in the end is the strong warrior whose name is Du. At that moment, we go back in time a little to a few days ago, and at that time, the warrior, Du, went to the store selling tools directly after he learned that his teacher's suit was being sold. At that time, he was talking with Director Zhang and immediately asked him about the location of the person who sells these tools, but the director apologized to him and told him that he was busy now and would not be able to come here today. Here, Dukanen began to talk to himself and said, although he has not seen this suit yet, there is no doubt that it is the special inheritance with my teacher. And then he addresses his words to Director Zhang again and offers him money in exchange for him giving him information about Feng, but the director at that time becomes very nervous and does not know what exactly he is supposed to do. And at that time he keeps talking to himself and says that this person appeared and asked about the suit after Feng offered it directly to the environment. He asks if they both agreed with each other or if this was just a coincidence and nothing more. In the end, he is forced to carry out his words and tells him, I heard that Feng is now going to a neighboring city to do some things, and let me call him to make sure. After he gives him all the information he wants, Director Zhang becomes very relieved when he finds out that he has finally left. And this is what makes the assistant with him surprised and asks about the reason for his extreme nervousness. Director Zhang looks at her and tells her, I sent someone to search in Feng's background, and I learned that his parents were very ordinary two-star warriors. But they disappeared in a mysterious accident. When Mac was young, despite that, he joined the high school in the city and was awakened at the age of 18 and remained with only 1 star. This assistant explodes from his words and tells him, I thought he was an exceptional and very strong person, but in the end, he turned out to be just trash, nothing more. She then continues and tells him, but if that was really true, how was he able to bring all these very expensive tools? Because it is absolutely impossible for a person with only 1 star to be able to obtain such things. Director Zhang responds to her and tells her, what is this problem? The assistant here is shocked again and tells him, but the warrior who watched came to us a while ago. He was not happy at all. And she asks if it is possible that the things that Feng brings are stolen. The director responds to her, very nervous, and tells her it is possible that they were not stolen, but rather that he took them illegally, and it seems that this time he provoked the wrong people. We go back again to the warrior Du, who is still watching Feng, and he is very upset, and he says to himself, I still can't believe that this little person is the one who was able to prevent the invasion of the entire world alone, because after all, even my teacher himself was defeated by the monsters who wanted to take the world. And here guys, he means his teacher, who is Captain Joe, because when Feng finished the battle he took his captain's clothes and went to sell them. Du continues his words and says, according to the information I got, he definitely had the teacher's suit with him, so if he didn't turn out to be this very strong person, then he was definitely his subordinate, and it is better for me to be very careful in my movements. At this time Feng has reached the big building, making the warrior Du very happy because now Feng is finally going to change his clothes, and then when he does that, the lover Du will be able to judge the extent of his strength, but unfortunately he is shocked afterwards when he finds him not wearing the clothes of a very ordinary magician. So he was surprised and said to himself, maybe this is just a disguise. Why not? He thought and said, of course, judging by his age, he is dressed like a normal magician. He will never draw attention to himself. But if he really had his teacher's suit, he would definitely kill me to get rid of all the suspicions that would be around him. Now, it is better for me not to get close to him any more than that, and I will write that I will mark him with my skill. At this time, Feng is ignoring all the weak monsters and warriors who are killing each other and goes directly to the place. As soon as he arrives and sets foot in it, it explodes in front of him. At that moment, the monster that is there attacks him, but Feng remains standing in his place and believes this with all ease. That is why Fido is watching, standing and very shocked by his strong defense. They are all surprised and start to get scared of him and run away from him all the time. Here he is. It is confirmed 100% that this Feng is not an ordinary person. At this time, Feng continues and stands in front of the monster, the leader of the world that entered it, who is in the form of a statue at that time. The monster does not dare to move at all because he is afraid and keeps trembling in his place, very terrified. This is what makes the oyster, on the other hand, surprised by what is happening. And he is even more surprised when he finds Feng left him and did nothing at that time. Feng continues on his way and keeps walking in the place until he stops in front of another monster. When he sees him, he is terrified as well and immediately starts running away. When he sees the second monster, he is shocked because he did not know that there is a secret leader in this world, and he is not able to understand how Feng was able to discover such information himself. At that time, Feng stands in his place with all his confidence while looking at the leader of the monsters. He is the one who is very nervous at that time because he does not know where he will escape to. Because this world is his, Feng laughs at that time with a very evil laugh and says to himself, this mission is definitely of the S level for beginners who are entering a mysterious world for the first time, but for someone like me, this mission is very easy. He raises his hand in the air after that and uses his dark power, and at that time he activates the skill, the lightning that descends on this boss and completely eliminates him with just one strike. And here this warrior is unable to control his nerves. He immediately falls to the ground from fear because it is the first time he has seen such a terrifying power. And he starts talking to himself and says the power of this last strike is definitely stronger than even the power of my personal teacher. It is very likely that this person could be the giant of the 8 transformations that the rumors always talk about. We return again to Finu, who is very upset about the experience points he lost because he will not be able to use them until he finishes his first transformation. At that time, he takes out a transfer scroll from what he has with him in order to leave this world, but quickly Warrior D goes to him and asks him to stand. Feng is very shocked when he sees him and asks him while he is angry if he saw the skill that this warrior used. He is also shocked when he sees the expressions on his face. So Fu tries to calm him down and says to him, leave me alone. Explain to you what he wants you to do first. But before he starts explaining to him, they are both surprised when they find that the alarm suddenly went off. So immediately, Feng uses the teleportation scroll and tells him, let's finish our conversation outside. After they go out, Du sits and tells him everything that happened, which surprises Feng and asks him if he was really watching them all this time. Du then apologizes to him and tells him, I didn't mean anything, I just wanted to make sure for myself because you are very young and I would never have believed you unless I saw you with my own eyes. He continues after that, annoyed, and tells him, even though my teacher was very strong, he sacrificed his life to stop the invasion and close the world in which the monsters are. And all this past period, the enemy was actually using humans as a fourth sacrifice, and if he hadn't shown himself, it would have been impossible for me to ever know that he was watching me. And in the end, of course, that it goes back to one thing, which is that my level is very low compared to his at this time. Du is very terrified when he finds Venja looking at him silently and thinking that he wants to hit him like this. So he immediately tries to praise him and says to him, I am very grateful to you because you took revenge from my first teacher. And if you need me for anything in the future, you can ask me for it. Now, I will do it for you." Finja thinks about his words and says to himself, "This person does not seem weak at all. And if I was really able to be friends with him from now on, then he will definitely help me greatly in the future." Then he responds to him and says to him, "I do not want anyone to know what happened now, or even know about my abilities." Du responds to him and tells him that it is impossible for him to bring this up with anyone. He thinks to himself a little later and says, "This very strong person really carries dark power inside him, but despite that, he did not harm anyone at all. On the contrary, he helped prevent the invasion, this world, and saved the entire city, and in general, whatever it is age, he definitely deserves my respect. And since I don't have any place to go now, I can stay in Tenki City as well in the meantime." And Finn is walking. They are surprised and come to her immediately because she needs him for something very important, and she doesn't wait and hangs up on him. And this is what makes Finn surprised by her sudden call. But then we know that the receptionist, whose name is Solon, is the one who asked her to do this, and when she asks her about what happened, Teacher Key answers her and tells her from the tone of his voice. He was very calm and he looks like he is ready to actually come. And I don't think he has any problem. Solon interrupts her and says to her, "But how can a student who just woke up a few days ago be able to reach the first transformation so quickly? Of course, it is impossible for him to know anything about his first transformation if it weren't for the immediate investigation that I, the teacher, am doing." So that she is not convinced by what she heard and tells her, "But Finn is a very good person and he studies hard, and I do not think that he is an evil person." Solon confirms her words and tells her, "I did not say that he is an evil person or anything. But in the beginning and the end, I mean, we have to make sure of everything. Thank you." At this moment, we move after that to her meeting with the leaders, in which she asks her if the spells that fell on the city of Kenyu before were really caused by mutants. Their leader thinks a little about her question and then responds to her seriously and says to her, "How are you a mutant and you ask him a question like that?" He tells her that because mutants use the power of darkness, they must pay a price for this thing, and informs her that everywhere the mutants are stronger, so in every place the price that needs to be paid is higher. In the end, he tells her some information that if these mutants do not take their precautions, they may lose their minds and their lives and eventually turn into monsters, and the summary of this talk means that it is impossible for there to be a mutant at the level of king. As you say, the person with blue hair completes his words and says to her, "I really respect your imagination for you to believe that there is a mutant at the level of the king. But as long as you like fantasy stories in this way, I advise you to leave this profession and try to become a better writer." Sala responds to him and says to him, "In the beginning and the end, I am just trying to think." So this person becomes and tells her, "Do not argue with me because it is clear that you do not know how to discover anything." And then he laughs and says to her, "If what you said was really true, and there is a mutant at the level of the king, then I am now ready to cut off my head in front of you." Their leader intervenes and talk says to Sala, "We generally sent you an investigation team to the city of Kinyu. And this investigation team is most likely the one who will take over all your work in necessary circumstances. As for your request to the only shadow organization to increase your workforce, unfortunately this request is not." She will agree to him. She will reply to him and say to him, "You look like this, you can't trust me." This leader answered her and said to her, "It is not a matter of trust, but you just have to be a little patient." She takes the basket for herself and starts to really calm down. But suddenly someone enters her quickly through the door and she is screaming to convey the latest news to her. She starts telling her the news. She knows that the world of the Temple of Polytheism in Longpo City was attacked by destructive magic. But she is reassured that there have been no casualties so far. Teacher Key is shocked and says that Fang was recording his training there. During the investigation, she hears her words and begins to smile and say something like this: "The topic now remains really interesting. The scene will change for us after that, and we will go to Longpo City. And who will be there are very many people gathered at the entrance. And these people remain standing, surprised and not understanding what barrier is in front of them now. The warrior standing in front of them and guiding him, he tells them not to worry because this barrier is very strong and it is placed here to protect the city from the dark power and will not allow any monster to enter it. At that time, all of the people are really reassured and happy because they will finally be safe, and like Feng, who is very upset and says to himself that my use of my power led to an immediate state of alert in the city, and now I have to wait until the situation calms down again before I know it. I return to my city, but suddenly, as soon as he finishes his thoughts, a transport portal opens above them all the time. And at that moment the monsters begin to emerge from it after the big ones. This is the time, and here the leader of the monsters is surprised by the confinement that is being made, and he still does not understand what its purpose is. His assistant explains to him and tells him not to remove the concern of this barrier, because humans are very cowardly and they always hide behind the walls, and the president then looks at him with frustration and says to him, "It's unfortunate that these creatures are no longer able to stop us anymore." Here, he orders all his followers to move and finds them completely. These monsters actually do what he says and are able to pass through the barrier with ease as if he didn't exist at all. After that, they start attacking the citizens, who are dead from the crowd and running away everywhere at their speed. At that time, the warriors who are standing in this gathering are unable to move because they are very nervous and do not understand how these monsters were able to pass through the barrier without breaking it. Meanwhile, Do is present and looks at his aura. Then he looks at Feng and says to him, "What is happening now could be another high-level invasion, like what happened yesterday." They ask if they are supposed to intervene in this matter. No. Feng answers him and asks if he has any plan for something like this. Du is very surprised by his words because he thinks that Feng is trying to test him. So he quickly starts to move and tells him to leave this matter to me. Feng is surprised by his actions and what he is doing, but at that moment he talks to himself and says, "Right now there are a very large number of people around us. So, I will not be able to interfere and show my skills, and it would be better for me to let him take care of the matter at this time." The warriors present are working to kill the monsters so that they can quickly find them and protect the people before they can do anything. At that moment, one of them grabs his bow and attacks them with ice arrows. But the monster is able to repel this attack with ease, but at that moment, another warrior takes advantage of the opportunity and attacks him from behind with his sword. But the monster is still able to notice him, and he hits him in the stomach, and blocks his attack as well. And here the warrior with Cos, when he sees what happens, surrenders completely because they basically do not know how to cause them any harm. And at that moment the monster kills him as well easily and continues on his way, and he is very frustrated because until now he has not faced any strong person who gets closer to the citizens. While he is at the peak of his anger, and he decides that he is the one who destroyed them all because of their extreme weakness, but before he could touch any of them, Du entered and quickly blocked his attack with his dagger. Here, the monster was shocked and could not believe that anyone was able to stop him. Du then looked at him angrily and said to him, "Although President Feng does not need any help from me, as long as I am in this place, I will never let him move and tell you himself." He also addressed Feng specifically while looking at him with a sharp look and said to him, "Don't worry, President, because I will eliminate them all." But Feng actually responded to him and asked him to stop calling him President because this matter is why embarrassing for him at this time. The monster laughed and said, "Very well, because they are all here, Ashq Mama or something." But suddenly, Du immediately hit him with his dagger and threw him far away, making him bleed. Then he continued on him while he was flying in the air and kept hitting him many times until he was able to eliminate everyone present in at this moment. They are very shocked by his strength because the leader of the monsters he was fighting literally couldn't even touch him. As for Feng, when he sees what happened, he is very happy inside, but he remains completely calm and doesn't show any sign of his happiness at all. Meanwhile, all the monsters start to run away and return to the space rift again. This is after They see their leader die in front of their eyes, but at that time, the warriors don't leave him alone and continue to attack them while they try to run away to avenge their colleague who died at their hands. After that, Do moves and stands in front of Feng and asks him if there is anything else he wants to do for him. Here, Feng can't hold back his joy any longer and continues to praise him while laughing and telling him that he did well. At this time, everyone present sees the situation that is still happening and is very surprised by it, and is surprised why a strong warrior like him shows respect to a young student, and he thinks he is his guard. But after that he grabs the tools that fell from the monster that killed him and presents them to Feng, and this is what makes everyone present surprised again because the tools, these are very expensive and valuable tools at this time. The warrior who is wearing armor leans on his friend because he is injured and goes to meet Feng and Do, and they ask if he can talk to them a little. Also at that time, the person wearing a suit and sculpting and doing comes forward, and they learn that he remains the mayor of this city, and his name remains my name. At that time, he speaks to them and tells them, I expect that the two of you are not from here, because you look strange. Feng takes himself and says tell him, this is true, we just came here for some business, but unfortunately now we are stuck in this place and are unable to go out. He then looks at him with a very frightening look and says to him, do you have anything, an idea about the reason or not? Uncle Kai at that time, he gets nervous from Feng's look and tells him that I expect that the reason is the alert state shield that we did. He bows to him again and apologizes profusely for what happened and tells him that this is still their fault. At that time, Feng quickly calms him down and tells him that this is not your fault or anything, and he talks to himself at that time and says that this happened. It is all my fault, basically. The uncle then turns to his assistant. It happens that he goes and brings him the plane ticket that he had quickly bought to present to this warrior as a form of apology. They are then surprised. This plane remains rare and is used only once and makes it impossible to travel between cities. Very quickly, Director Kai interrupts his thoughts at that time while he is speaking to him, and they ask if he can stay in this city for a few more days, but to protect them, if anything happens. Finjo responds to him and apologizes to him, and they know that he is very busy this period and he will not be able to. He carries out his request and then talks to himself and says the mission of changing the profession is only for 3 days, and if I delay more than that, then my first transformation will not work at all. Meanwhile, the assistant returns with the box containing the gift, and the mayor immediately gives it to Feng and tells him that this box contains the black card from the Yuan Center. Shang Trading Company considers this an additional gift to express his gratitude to him. They are surprised. It is known that it gives them many privileges in an amazing way. He thinks to himself after that and says I am not surprised now how the mayor was able to obtain this flying scroll. He accepts it from him after that and thanks him for his generosity. The mayor comes again and is very nervous and asks him if he can ask for his help, and his city is exposed to another attack in the future. Feng responds to him and reassures him and tells him that he will help him. The mayor immediately flies with the warriors with him from joy because this is it. Their city will be safe from the beginning. No, at this moment they are both using the flying scroll and immediately heading to Kenyu City. After a while, they arrive at the bottom of the transformation, where Wang's team is waiting for her and the shield warrior outside. They are very happy when they find that they have left this hall and completed their transformation, but suddenly, Wang is walking and notices something. When she looks, she finds to flying at a very terrifying speed above her. The shield warrior looks at them as well and says to her, what exactly is happening? She lines them up and says to him, I think that one of those flying above is Feng. The shield warrior laughs at what hers and tells her that the flying scroll currently costs thousands of crystals, which is impossible for a poor person like Feng to be able to afford it. In addition, he is basically an AS. He just woke up a short time ago. What could he possibly do by heading to the transformation base? Wang looks at him and speaks to him in a very scary tone and says to him, if you dare to mock Feng again, I will make you regret what you ate. At that time the shield warrior is really terrified of her and does not understand why she is interested in a loser like him. At that moment, the priestess intervenes between them and tries to change the subject, and asks them both about the result they got, and the shield warrior responds to her with frustration and says to her, I unfortunately got what rating, and it was luck that I did not get an S rating. He lowers the fierce axe and says to him, but what rating is considered very good because only a few and lucky people are able to get an S rating. They encourage the latter who is with them as well, and he is very happy and says to him, completing the second transformation at the age of 18 is considered a great achievement that no one does, and for sure you will be able to join the top universities with this excellent result of yours. Later, the priestess talks to Wang and asks about what she did, and she is very excited to know her result too, but Wang does not respond to her at that time and keeps looking at the ground in frustration, and because of that the priest is surprised by her reaction and is lenient if she got a C rating or less, so that she would be upset like this, unlike the shield warrior, who is very happy with her because this means that he will be stronger than her in the future. But he pretends to encourage her and tells her not to be upset because I will definitely help you to train hard, and also you will return to your level again soon. But basically Wang responds to him coldly and says to him, basically, you were not upset about the rating what you got. How? I mean, I can be upset about this rating. The four of them came to me at this moment, and they are all shocked by what she said immediately, and the priestess talks to her again and says to her, since that is the case, then why didn't you respond to me from first? Wang responds and tells her that her situation is different because I have been given a hidden profession, the first time I have seen it in my life. The shield warrior gets very upset at that moment and tells her that she is definitely wrong because the profession is determined from the time of waking up, and I have never heard that the profession changes in transformation missions. Let's go back in time a little to this transformation room where Wang was standing, and she was surprised when she found the system asking her if she wanted to change her profession from Fast Archer to Shadow Vanguard in exchange for the hidden mission. She was even more surprised when she saw the badge that Feng had given her before still there, and she remembers that he was very confident in himself when he was giving it to her. And she is lenient at that moment if he gave it to her because he knew that this would happen from the beginning. But in the end she thanks him for this gift because it will help her now, and she accepts the mission immediately without any thought. We go back again to the present time. The rest of the team knew what happened from her tongue, but then the priestess yelled at her and said to her, how do you make decisions so randomly and recklessly? As for the shield warrior, he was very upset and said to her, what is this profession of the Shadow of the Vanguard? I have never heard of it before. In addition, if your decision to choose it turns out to be wrong, then you will ruin your entire life. Wang responded to him coldly and said to him, you do not need to worry at all about my decisions. Then she started moving to go celebrate with the rest of the team. Say the reason. So the shield warrior exploded with anger and thought that he must send people to search for this emblem and get it at any cost. We return again to Feng, who was absorbing the royal emblem in his hand before entering the transformation room. At that time, he was able to obtain a hidden profession as well, which is manipulating forbidden spells, and this profession will make him able to. He controls the spell he uses very well. At that time, Feng is very happy with the effect of this badge on his abilities. He is also happy with the effect of the new profession and is unable to wait to test his strength at the same time. Outside the room, the receptionist, Silla Soren, is surprised when she finds that Du came with Feng. She does not understand the reason that made him stand like this in front of the room while waiting for him to come out. As if he is careful, she talks to herself. At that time, she says that Du, despite his young age, has already reached the 4th transformation, even on the global level. His strength is considered very rare. Despite that, according to the employees, he had entered the hall behind Feng as if he was following him. They also said that he was talking to him and treating him with great respect. She addresses the teacher, Qi, who is also with her, and says to her, your student, Feng, does not seem like a simple person at all. I will leave you to be the one who deal with the matter yourself. The teacher will reply to her and tell her not to worry because I am sure that Finch will never be our enemy. After some time, Feng finally leaves the hall, very happy with the result he got. and while he is talking to Do and telling him what happened, Teacher Ki calls him and tells him that she wants to talk to him now in private. And here Do immediately understands and leaves immediately and tells him, "I will wait for you outside, boss." At this moment, Feng is shocked that he called this title in front of Teacher Ki. So, he saves the situation immediately before she has time to suspect anything. And he tells her that he is a worm. He always likes to joke, nothing more. The teacher ignores him and continues talking to him and asks if he completed his first transformation. Feng is shocked when he discovers that she knew information like this and he does not know how to respond to her at all, so he says to himself, "Although I know that I will not be able to hide this information for a long time, but they discovered it very quickly. But Teacher Ki considers one of the few people here who care about me. And most likely, she won't hurt me, and I can definitely trust her." He replies to her after that, laughing and telling her that this is really true, but he makes her understand that explaining what happened will be very difficult. So, he decided not to let anyone know. The teacher looks at him seriously and says to him, "In fact, I have another question, and it could be a bit strange, but I have to make sure if you were affected by the dark force or not." At this moment, Feng starts to get nervous and says to her, "Why are you asking me a question like this?" Then he wonders to himself if the problem that happened to him when he woke up was really revealed. But the teacher replies to him and says, "You know that strange things have started to happen in the world recently. And you certainly know that monsters have started to come out of the secret worlds to the real world with great freedom. And that's why there are a lot of people who have started to be affected by the force, the dark, and they remain mutants." Feng reassures Haim and he tells her not to worry because he is definitely not one of the mutants. And at that time he is forced to lie to her like this because these mutants are being monitored by the authorities, and he does not want to get involved with them. But suddenly he is shocked after that immediately when he finds that she takes out a black stone from her and talks to him and asks him to inject his spiritual power into this stone to make sure of what he is really saying. At that time, the teacher notices that Feng is very hesitant and sweating, so she suspects him. But in the end, Feng goes to carry out her words, and as soon as he touches the stone in her hands, it explodes completely. That is why two of them are shocked and do not understand what happened. At that moment, the teacher remembers when his receptionist, Silent, gave her the stone and told her that he is affected by the dark power. And the more he shakes, the greater the dark power. At that time, she remains standing and looks in the stone in her hands, and she is very confused because in this case the stone did not shake but shattered immediately, and she does not know what this could mean. Then Feng tries to calm her down and says to her, "I know it is strange that I changed jobs immediately after waking up, but you have known me for a very long time, and at least surely you are supposed to trust me that I do not have this evil power. You are supposed to trust me that I do not have this evil power." Teacher K is convinced by his words and says to herself he definitely did something very exceptional to reach a result like this and maintain his passion after losing his father and mother at a young age. And then she responds to him and says to him, "I personally trust you very much, but the problem is that this is my job and it is my duty to report what happened today, so I hope you understand." Something like this, Feng thinks to himself and says, "I do not know what the reaction of the women will be when they know information like this, and in general in the worst cases I will be forced to leave the city of Cain a day when they are more surprised. I prepared this gift for you early to congratulate you on your first transformation." Feng takes the gift from her and he is very happy, which is the purple skill book, and says to her, "I want to thank you for your care for me all these years, and I also prepared a gift for you as well." Here he goes and takes out for her the golden feather wings belt, which is of the golden rank. And of course this is what makes the teacher very shocked and surprised. But she refuses and tells him, "I can never accept such a very expensive gift." Feng laughs at her at that moment because of her reaction and says to her, "To got this thing during my profession change mission, so please accept it from me." After that, he leaves her the tool and walks away and sells it to the teacher. After This situation, she remains standing in her place, feeling very sorry for him and being respectful of what she is supposed to do, but in the end, she decides to do her duty and do what is required of her. After a while, she takes this stone to Sala, and she still tells her everything that happened in detail. Sala is very surprised and tells her, "I have never seen anything like this happen." Then, she gets up from her chair and tells her, "Forget it, let's close this investigation." Teacher K reacts to her behavior and asks what exactly she meant. So she leaves her and tells her, "Your student might have actually multiplied our concept of power. And if he really did come out with this power, then we must try our best to make him our friend instead of targeting him and making things difficult." At this time, the masked girl intervenes in the conversation and asks him if he should have reported what happened or not. Sala answers her and says, "I want you to stop all investigations regarding Feng right now, and also all the information we got from him. We must keep it very confidential." The teacher is very agreeable to her words and says in the end, "Feng is still young, and with this method we will be able to protect him for the longest possible period." Sila continues her words again and says to them, "Now let's focus our attention on the fighter who was with Feng, because we need new people in our team, and having a very strong person like him with us will definitely benefit us." After a while, night falls and we go to Feng's house, and there Du is sitting with him and says to him, "Why are you so absent today?" Feng responds to him while sitting on the couch and staring at the ceiling and says to him, "Teacher K sent me a message a while ago telling me that the investigation thought he had to stop actually." Du is surprised by his words and says to him, "I expect this is supposed to be a good thing anyway." Feng responds to him again and says to him, "What you said is right, but I am worried only because of the leveling up that will happen in the future, because every time I destroy a mysterious world, I make a huge fuss, and for example this time I attracted the attention of the authorities if the matter this continued with me like this. So I will definitely leave a lot of trouble." Du is very upset and says that he definitely deserves to be this strong because he worries even about things that are not clear to ordinary people like us. Then he replies to Hyman and tells him that, "I think it would be better for you to enter secret world that is not present in the lists at all in order to develop your level." Du does not understand what he means and is surprised by his words. So he remains without explaining to him and tells him that recently, very strange things have started to happen on the planet, and these things are what led to the appearance of many secret world gates. Among these gates, there is a little one that is not at the disposal of the authorities at all due to the lack of soldiers, and the rest of it is occupied by an evil force. At that moment, Du is very happy with his words and tells him that this could actually be a solution and asks him if he has any information about these mysterious worlds. Du replies to him and tells him that, "I currently only have information about one or two, but as long as you need information, I will collect as much as possible for you." At that moment, Feng thanks him for his help and tells him, "I will leave this matter to you." Then he takes out the black card he took and says to himself, "I will go to the store tomorrow to sell some tools and also take advantage of this opportunity to rest a little." After a while, he arrives at the hotel he is staying in and thinks to himself, saying, "I did not expect night to fall when I left the president's apartment, but that's it. Haba is here today, and after that, I will look for an apartment to rent the next morning." But suddenly, as soon as he enters the door, he finds a person with glasses calling his name and saying, "I was waiting for you." He asks him to talk to him a little. At that moment, he is surprised that he knows his name and asks about his identity because it is the first time he has seen him. But after that, he hosts him and the two of them sit together, and this person begins to introduce himself to him. And he says to him, "My name is Zhang Ji, and I am the mayor of Qingyu City, and I came just to thank you for your help in suppressing the recent monster invasion. And I ask you now if you have any plans to stay in the city here." Du replies to him and tells him that he actually intends to live in this city for a while. Mayor Zhang is very pleased and tells him that this would be a great thing because we welcome heroes like you. Then he gives him a card, and they know that this card is a special adventure card issued by the city and offers many privileges. He tells him, "If you need anything in the future, Just contact us immediately, and we will do everything we can to help you. Du understands his words and goes and takes the card from him. But at that moment the mayor becomes very nervous and says to himself, I heard before that many cities tried to recruit them. It is known that he has always refused any offer made to him. In addition, the city of Kinyu is considered small. He looks at her with a monopoly, but the surprise is that Du sells the card and thanks him and says to him, I will accept your offer. He then greets the mayor, who is very happy and cannot believe that something like this happened, but then we know that Du did this basically because he was thinking about Feng, who might need this card in the future. Meanwhile, Mayor Zhang is at the peak of his happiness and is very proud of himself because he was able to convince him, and also offers to find him a place to live instead of spending the night in the hotel here. He thanks Du. He is very surprised by his extreme enthusiasm. Let's go back again to Feng, who stays up late and plays on his phone. It is late at night, and when he notices that it is this late, he immediately turns off his phone and kisses to go to sleep. But then he is surprised that the students in the school class group are still talking until now. So, he opens this group and sees what are they talking about. At that time, you will find them talking about their levels and that none of them have reached level 30 yet. They will also be very upset at that time because they cannot enter the mysterious worlds due to the state of alert in the city. When Ying reads this, he talks to himself and says that all of these people woke up when they were 16 years old, and now they are planning to take university exams that require them to have reached at least the first transformation, but I never imagined in my life that I would be able to pass them all in such a short period of time. He gets very angry after that when he looks and finds that one of Bang's fans is making fun of him and blocking his name, and tells his friends that he can't imagine that until now there are people who are just wasting their time on mobile games. But suddenly the teacher enters the conversation and yells at him, and this is what makes Feng very happy because she also deleted his message and asked him to take care of himself first. The students continue their conversation in this group. He sends one of them news from the internet saying that the invasion of the monsters of the mysterious world has started to increase in all the worlds and is causing very large losses. Feng is shocked when he reads the news and says to himself, I heard from Teacher Kyudu that the world is changing, but I never expected that the matter could actually be this serious. Now I don't know what to do because my life had only started to improve a few days ago, and now the world wants to end, by luck. The monster with the chain that I met before had run away because I really wanted to kill him. Meanwhile, the monster sneezes when Feng mentions him and gets very nervous. I don't know why. He suddenly starts to feel afraid for no reason. Time passes with us. After that, we go to the next day, specifically to the Yuanshen Mall. There, Yang Shen is standing to receive the workers. But she is upset and has a bandage on her face because of the injuries she sustained from the last invasion. Then she explodes when she finds this bullying assistant calling her from behind her and asking why she came to work here. Although she did not search completely, she answers her. Yan tells her that her injury wasn't serious or anything, but the bully's assistant interrupts her and says to her, I know that you're saying this from the outside, and I also know that the real reason you came here is that you want to leave quickly, depending on my client Angie. At this moment, she tries to object to her words, but the bully doesn't give her any chance and tells her, your luck is that this client is just a thief, nothing more. She continues and tells her, we discovered that he stole something from a very strong person from the fourth transformation, and most likely she left. Yang yells at her and tells her, what you're saying is definitely just nonsense, nothing more, because Mr. Feng is an honorable gentleman and would never be that type of person. But the bully continues her words and knows that Director Zonga had sent people from here to investigate his matter, and she tells her that he turned out to be an orphan who woke up this year with a star, just one. How could a person who woke up with 1 star be able to get all these valuable tools? Now, after this very strong person came to look for him, we discovered that he was just a thief in the end. But suddenly, at this moment, the bully was dying of fear when she found a very large thorn It suddenly came out of the ground in front of her, and what made me laugh after that was that this thorn was from Feng. He was talking to her and saying to her, "You look like you've made me a little angry." Meanwhile, the bully was lying on the ground, and as soon as she heard Feng's voice, she was shocked because she couldn't believe that he was still alive until now. She talked to him after that and shouted at him, saying, "How dare you use these offensive spells in the mall?" She also called the guards to come and take him quickly. At that moment, Ying ran to him, worried, and asked him to run away. Now that the guards are coming, Feng calms her down and tells her not to worry about anything. But Yang doesn't listen to him and tells him that the guards in the mall aren't weak at all, and even the our fighters won't be able to handle them. And if they are caught, you'll be a big problem. At the same time, the manager comes to the place with a group of guards, and at that moment he gets very upset and yells at Feng and says to him, "Who allowed you to use your spell in the mall?" Feng responds to him and says to him, "I heard that you were investigating my identity without me knowing, and you even accused me in the end of being a thief. So now I want to know if this is really true or not." The manager Zhang responds to him with all coldness and says to him, "Whether you are a thief or not, you definitely know yourself well, and if you want to interrogate me, I want you to know that you are not qualified for this at all." Then he tells the guards to go and arrest him quickly, but before they can catch up to them, they touch him. Feng goes to the director of the black card that the mayor gave him before and says to them, "How could this be the way you treat your distinguished guests?" All the guards are immediately shocked when they see the card he has with him, and in a second they stop in their place. The director, Zhang, is also shocked and does not believe it. And at that moment the bullying assistant talks to him and tells him, of course the card he has with him, this must be fake. The manager actually believes her words, and he shouts at Feng a second time, and they ask about the place from which he got this card. Feng responds to him then, smiling, and tells him that this card is a gift from the mayor, and if you do not believe me, you can go and check for yourself. Since you are good at investigating. At this moment, the manager of Zhang quickly locks up the mall and picks up his phone and calls Mayor Kai, and the one who it gets annoying for him when he finds out that he is investigating the black card that Feng gave him at that time. Manager Zhang gets very nervous and keeps saying sorry to him and telling him that this is a compromise market and nothing more. He's talking to himself, and he can't believe what he heard. He says that Mayor Gai's father is one of the founders of this mall, Fazai Feng. Basically, he was destined to meet him at this time. Mayor Gai is still on the line and he knew what happened, so he shouted at the manager Zhang angrily and told him, "I'm still here. It took a lot of effort to gain friendship with this warrior Feng. How are you bothering him now and shopping for him like this?" He ends his conversation with him and tells him, "I am coming to you now at the mall," and he hangs up on him. At that time, after this happens, the manager remains standing in his place, terrified to death, and he is working. He cries and is unable to comprehend what a big mistake he made, but quickly another thought comes to him, and he grabs his phone and says to himself, "I will call the strong warrior who was looking for the suit now, and then I will tell him that we found it, and when he faces Feng and the mayor to know the truth, he will definitely not punish me." Never. After a period of time passed, he remained waiting, and while Feng was playing on his phone, the mayor, Gai, and Du finally arrive at the store, and they were running towards him at full speed. Very worried that something had happened to him, Feng was surprised when they see them both together and ask why they came here. At the same time, Feng is also surprised and is tolerant of how these two really knew him. But she explodes at the moment when they both hear her and go to her very angry. Then she is even more shocked when she looks at Director Zhang and finds that he is very frustrated and loses hope completely when he also discovers that these two know him. Mayor Gai goes to Feng and apologizes to him for what happened. At that moment, he consults with the bullying assistant and Director Zhang and asks them if he wants them to apologize to him as well. But Feng responds and says to him, there is no need because these two are not the type of people who can change. After they apologize, and here, as soon as the mayor hears me say this sentence, he immediately points at them and tells them that you are both fired now. At that moment, they are both very shocked. and they return to their place, and the manager, Zhang, loses his temper and starts hitting the bullying assistant with a punch in the face with all his strength while he keeps yelling at her and telling her that everything that happened is because of you. At this time, the mayor is frustrated with his behavior, so he quickly goes to security to expel them both. And after that he takes Finji has a room for special guests, and Yang is passing by to introduce them to the hardworking ones, and he keeps looking at her and Finn, and he is very happy. When he finds that they are not dealing with each other well, he says to himself that it is fortunate that the reputation of the commercial tower here was not greatly affected by Rich. At that time Yang keeps looking at Finn and she is surprised. He is very personable, and that is because he was able to talk to important people like the mayor with ease despite his young age. As for Feng, he talks to the mayor and says to him, "I am sorry, but if I forced you to come all this way for me." The mayor calms him down at that time and says to him, "This is considered nothing because if it weren't for your intervention last time, my city would have been completely destroyed by now." He continues after that and asks him if he came to the store here to look for something specific. Feng runs to him excitedly and asks him if he heard of something called the Last Relic. Mayor Kai and Du are surprised at that time from this name, is because it is the first time they hear it in their lives, and that is why Fen is embarrassed by what happened and tells them to forget about it. And they know that this was just something he read on the internet yesterday and he thought it was a rare piece, nothing more. At this moment, we go back in time a little to Fen's apartment, who at that time he uses the skill book that the teacher gave him, which allows him to temporarily replenish his energy in battle. After absorbing Fang, this book immediately transforms into a type of forbidden spell called the Meeting of Darkness and the type. This is because he can absorb the remaining dark power from the last relic and convert it into his abilities. At that time, Fang was thinking to himself about the place where he could find something like this because this was also the first time he had heard about this last relic. In addition, the system did not give him any explanation. Why do we go back to the present time again, when the mayor is saying goodbye and telling them, "We met very quickly now. But the next time you come and visit my city, you must know me so that I can host you properly." Then he activates the flying scroll that he has with him and changes his mind. Nai talks to Du and says, "Let's go now and eat something together." But they stop at that moment, and he suggests that they go eat at his house. Then listens to him and starts going to his house, and when he gets there, he starts calling someone from the big villa that he lives in it, and asks him if this is the house that the mayor gave him. He replies, "I heard that the people who reached the 4th transformation and above chose to stay in the city and get treatment. But if you like the place here, then you can. I will move around and look for another house." Feng laughs a lot at his generosity and tells him there is no need because I can save some money and buy another one next to you. And we can be neighbors then. But then he offers to lend him some money, but Feng refuses his offer right away, and then he talks to himself while laughing and says, "I have earned a very good amount of crystals recently, and if I just convert them into money, then buying the villa won't be a difficult thing for me at all, but I don't need to do that, and there is no need to rush now." After some time has passed, we see Feng sitting on the couch and enjoying the juice he is drinking. And then Du calls him again and tells him that this villa has its own chefs, and I had already called them, and they will be here as soon as possible. At that moment Du's phone rings, and when he answers it he finds the mayor Zing. He talks to him and asks him to meet him immediately and tells him that the higher investigation team has started investigating the disasters that are happening in our city, and the problem now is that your name has been mentioned in these investigations, and you might get into some problems. So we have to discuss this immediately. Here Du listens to him and is worried and says that these investigations might be related to my president, so I have to keep him safe and try not to cause him any problems. Here he goes to reply to Mayor Zhang and tells him that I can't because I don't have time today. The mayor gets a little annoyed but reassures him and tells him that it's no problem to call him, but when you have any free time in the next 2 days. As soon as he hangs up on him, Feng has heard everything and talks to him and tells him that he is wondering about the people who will be in this investigation. The scene changes with us after that, and we go to the same meeting room. The head of the investigation team, whose name is Zane, is talking to everyone present and asking if they know the name of this mysterious person. Sala responds to him and tells him that no one knows. The head of investigation, Zane, is upset and says to them that since none of you have heard of him, there are many rumors spreading outside that this mysterious person is the one who saved the city of Kenyu. Sala responds to him again and tells him that it is possible that these rumors came out because the invasion was stopped suddenly. In addition to the fact that the mutant who was helping in the invasion was also eliminated. Zane is not convinced by her words and gets up annoyed at her and says to her, "You must be joking with me because what you are saying is an illogical explanation at all. Apart from the invasion that happened in me, where have your investigations reached?" Which were regarding the 2 attacks of the king level that happened in the mysterious worlds. Sala closes her eyes here and looks at the ground and does not have any response. As for Teacher K, she was very upset and said to herself that in order to protect Feng, Fasila had to use her power and change all the information related to him. So all this pressure was on her alone. At that moment, the door to the room suddenly opened. He told me at that time the mayor entered and he was sweating profusely and told them that he called Mr. Du, but he said that he was very busy today. The head of investigations, Zane, here lost his temper and told them that these crazy adventurers seem to have gotten out of control. This is to the point that one of their dogs is now acting as if he is busy and has a lot of things to do. He then gets up from his place and tells them that now I am the one who will take over the investigations completely and you try to find anything else to do. After a while, he gets himself together and goes to the dangerous cemetery. As soon as he arrives there, the guards stop him immediately and tell him to stay standing in his place. But when he tells them that he is the head of the team, the investigation, and to explore the place along Petraja and hears him enter this mysterious world. And as soon as he enters the mysterious world and sees what happened in it, he says to himself, although this is not the first time for him to investigate something like this, but the first time I see a level of destruction that has reached this level. And now I really do not know what it could be, the amount of dark power that does this, and apart from that, he has lost it until now. The remains of the dark power are present in the place and pure. He keeps laughing madly after that, and he is happy. He says that the place here turned out to be really interesting. After that, he extends his hand and collects the rest of this dark power. And at that moment a monster comes out of him while he is still bursting with laughter. At that moment, he talks to the owner of the dark power and tells him that you really deserve to be at the level of the king, but unfortunately, all of this power of yours will be king now. At that time, the scene changes with us and we go to Du's villa, where Feng is still sitting and playing on his mobile phone, his usual, but then he explodes asking him that he discovered the final trace of Feng Binda, who is here because he feels that someone is trying to communicate with him. So, he immediately widens his eyes and begins to focus in order to make this call and is able to know his location. After he does this, he puts on his jacket and prepares to go to him, but while he is walking, Du stops him and asks him about what he is doing. So Feng berates him and tells him, I am going out now. Just walk a little bit. Then he throws his phone to him and tells him, you play this game and try not to lose. Du is very surprised by his actions. But Feng continues and goes to ride the taxi and begins to think to himself. And then he takes out another phone from his pocket and says, according to what appears on this mobile, the place is supposed to be near the dangerous cemetery. But suddenly, he is shocked and something happens when he finds that this thing he is moving and at the same time, at the entrance to the dangerous cemetery, a very scary monster starts to come out of it. And of course, as soon as the guards see him, they start to alert those present and they are very terrified. But after that, when they focus and look at this monster, they are shocked because they find the leader, Zane, screaming and calling for anyone to help him because he is not able to control his body at all. And they know that he might have turned into a monster or a monster now because he absorbed a very large amount of dark power. The warriors at this time have already known what happened because of the warning guards, so they take action and stop the road and prevent anyone from approaching the scene of the accident. Feng does not wait for him and gets down immediately. When he knows this, he finds that the taxi he is riding in has stopped, and at that moment he is surprised because the thing he was trying to send has stopped again. Let's go back here again to Commander Zeno, who is still screaming with all his might and needs anyone to help him now. At this moment it is Scylla, Teacher K and the masked girl who have arrived at the place, and at that moment the three of them are very shocked and they cannot believe what they are seeing in front of them. After this scene, time passes with us and the three of them enter into a very intense fight with him. But they are all defeated, and then at that moment, Scylla falls to the ground due to the severe injuries she sustained, and Teacher Key is sitting and trying to treat her. Here, she talks to herself and says, "Thanks to the equipment that Feng gave me, I was able to recover in a very short time, and I went to treat the rest of the team quickly. But the problem is that now the situation has become out of control, because our strongest warriors, like Scylla, were unable to stop this monster. Who could be able to stop him after that?" She regains her energy, so she gets up from the ground and asks about the location of this monster. Teacher Key responds to her and learns that he has headed to the middle of the city. She tells her Mayor Zhang had already called this warrior and asked him for help, but we don't know if he will arrive in time or not. At that moment, Scylla talks to herself and says, "But Warrior Du's strength is very similar to mine, and I also think that he won't be able to defeat this monster alone, but the person with him, who is Feng, may be our last hope in this battle." At this time we return again to Feng, who has reached the place and blocks the path of the monster, and at that time when he sees him, he is very surprised by his hugeness and the monster at that time. When he notices, he does not waste any time and jumps in the air quickly and attacks Feng with his claw. At that moment, Feng remains standing in his place with his hand in his pocket, and the claw approaches him, and before he can touch it at the last moment he activates his shield and is not affected by the attack. The monster is very nervous when this happens, and what we know is that he is the final effect itself and does not believe that a person like him actually has this tremendous power. And at this time also he sees a message from the system asking him if he wants to start the process of absorbing the final effect. Now Feng does not wait for him and immediately goes and presses agree immediately, and this is what makes the monster at that time continue. He screams with all his might as he sees his energy being completely absorbed in front of his eyes. After that, Feng has finished absorbing, so he pulls himself out of joy when he finds that all his abilities have increased by a full 100 points. However, he still holds his head after that, feeling extremely strange. This is because of the many images he was able to see in his brain, and he guesses that he might have absorbed something else along with his basic absorption. At this time, Du has already reached the place of the fight, so he runs to Feng immediately, very worried, and asks him about what happened. Feng consults him after that very coldly and says to him, "There was just a monster like this, and I have already dealt with him." Du is surprised and says to himself, "This is the mayor of the city. He just told me about this monster. So how was President Feng able to reach him so quickly? In addition, there is no evidence that he used the spell now. Finally, how could he defeat him?" Feng interrupts his thoughts at that time, putting his hand on his shoulder and saying to him, "I have to go now and leave this cleaning process to you." He replies to him and says, "Understood." Then he turns to look at him, but at that moment they are surprised that he is a magician. But at that speed, he has greatly exceeded all the capabilities of professions based on agility. He then continues and says, "He really deserves his reputation, and it seems that I am the one who underestimated him. Nothing more." After a period of time, we go to the city prison, where Viva is the head of the investigation. Zane is arrested and imprisoned in it, and this is after he confessed to what he did. At that moment, Sala explains to Mayor Zhang and tells the president that he found this monster by chance in a mysterious world, which enables him to control the dark power, and for that reason, he took advantage of the investigation to absorb the power that is present in this dangerous tomb, but he did not expect at all that the monster he found would lose control over him completely and do this to him. Mayor Zhang does not care about what she said because he is basically happy that there is a mysterious master protecting his city. Then he talks to Du and asks him if he saw the mysterious master that everyone is talking about. When he arrived at the location of the monster, Du replies to him and tells him, "I was truly honored to have met him even once." The mayor is happy with this and asks Du if it would be possible for him to have this leader come and meet them. He tells him the mysterious master is willing for him to stay in the city here, then whatever his requests are, we will try to fulfill them completely. At that time, Daub refuses his request and tells him, unfortunately, this mysterious gentleman has an introverted personality and does not like to appear, and you must give up this idea. Then he talks to himself and says, Finn and I thought about this before, and at that time, we decided to leave the whole championship to the imaginary mysterious gentleman that no one knows. After all, and without any evidence, they will never know who this mysterious gentleman is. The mayor here gets very upset when he finds out that he will not be able to meet the mysterious gentleman, and Dee says, this is very unfortunate because a strong person like him, there are definitely many people trying to get close to him. Du replies, don't worry, because the mysterious gentleman will stay in this city. This is because he has relatives here and wants to protect them with all his might. In return, he only asks that no one bother him at all. Sile is surprised at his words and begins to suspect that he is talking about Feng. Unlike Teacher K, who does not then any idea about the person he was talking about, we go back again to Feng's house, who was thinking to himself while taking a shower and saying, it turned out in the end that the thing called the final trace is the remains left behind by the leaders of the mysterious world, and the pictures that I saw in my head before, they were actually fragments of the memories of this world leader, and these fragments, I absorbed them by mistake with the energy, meaning that in the beginning and in the end, I did not intend to be the leader of the mysterious world, because this would not be useful to me. But here, as soon as he finishes thinking, he is surprised that these memories could be very useful in the end. And this is because of the dark power that exists in the mysterious world. It is always in continuous development, and in the end, if we are not able to keep up with this development, it will mean that the world will end, and at the present time, there are only a very few warriors who were able to reach the fourth transformation due to the incomplete training path for the awakened, in addition to the fact that the professions that currently exist have not yet reached their full form, and although the memories in the mysterious world present are considered somewhat ominous, they at least made me know that we must act as quickly as possible, because if this situation continues like this, humanity will eventually face a dead end. And even if I was able to act on my own, I certainly do not want to live in this world alone. He continues after that, and says that it is fortunate that it is not only our world that was exposed to invasions, but there were other worlds that were also attacked, and they were able to repel this invasion. I continue to collect the remnants of this memory, then I will certainly finish the useful experiences inside it, which are supposed to ultimately benefit us greatly in the danger that we will face. Meanwhile, Wang, his friend, calls Bear Feng on the mobile, and he is very happy, and Bella talks to him and invites him to dinner. And we know that the reason for this dinner is because she was able to finish the mission of transformation successfully, and she also got the new profession called Shadow Vanguard. From his excitement, he agrees to go with her, and at that moment, Wang moves and exits the transformation hall. But she explodes when she looks, and Fincher team is celebrating with her and the magician for their success in the second transformation. Just because of the confusion, and because there was a problem in the classes, the one we used to call the shield warrior is the magician. The people around them here are surprised that they have reached this second transformation at a young age. The magician at that time keeps greeting them and is very proud of himself, and starts talking to Wang and tells her, I have reserved a table for you in the most luxurious restaurant in the city. So let's go and celebrate now. But Wang refuses his request and tells him, I have other plans today, so you to go and enjoy. The magician does not agree and tries to make her postpone what is behind her, but Wang still refuses and tells him this is something very important. Then she leaves him and walks away. The magician here gets angry about what happened and says, it seems that she started acting arrogantly with us since she reached the second transformation. But the priestess tries to calm him down and tells him, Wang is not that type of person, and she definitely has something really important. But the magician is not convinced by her coldness and talks to the entire team and says to them, how come you don't notice what's happening? Not only did she finish a level S mission, but she also got a hidden profession, and now the gap in strength between us and her will be very big. And she definitely won't agree to be with us in the future and will leave this team. After a while, Feng meets Wang at the restaurant they agreed on, and at that moment he is very happy with the amount of delicious food she ordered for him, and thanks her for her generosity. Wang responds to him and says, I am the one who wants to thank you for the share you gave me because it helped me a lot and also opened a hidden profession for me. When Feng hears her words, he starts thinking to himself while eating and says about the memories of the world leader that I took. I discovered that the professions of the Waken have not yet reached their final form, so the share that she took might be one of the ways that help in developing the professions. Wang completes her words and asks about the place where she can get shares like this. Feng begs her and tells her that he does not know at the time. Wang gets very frustrated and tells him, I wanted to buy a badge for you and also the badge of the team members. Feng is happy here because she always counts him with her. As for Wang, she leaves her and tells him, I will see this matter of the condition myself. But you have to train and raise your level now because the world has become very dangerous. And any additional amount of strength will definitely be very beneficial to you. In general, I will try to bring you the share. It's time for you to open a hidden profession to Dot and she is strong. Feng responds to her and says to her, this is not a problem because you will always be by my side to protect me. Wang is shocked and very happy with his carelessness in the matter, but suddenly she feels a very strong pain in her body, which makes Feng worry about her and asks about what happened. Wang reassures him and tells him, I got a few minor injuries during the mission, nothing more, but since the scientist was of the S rank, it means I will definitely need some time to recover. Feng understands here and says, I never knew that the missions of changing the class from the S rank would be this difficult. At that moment, while he is thinking, he finds an unknown number. Feng's phone rings, and he takes advantage of the fact that he finds someone talking to him in a very harsh tone and asking him about the place where he got the badge. At that moment, Feng looks at his phone in surprise and closes the door in his face. When she knows what happened, she is surprised. Also because she didn't tell anyone about the badge except of course her team who was watching her. When Feng was giving her the badge, Feng gives it to her later and tells her not to worry about this matter and let's go back and finish eating. But then the unknown person calls him again and keeps yelling at him and threatening not to hang up on him. But Feng doesn't care about what he says and immediately hangs up on him because Wang is close to him and doesn't want to cause any problems. After a while, they both leave the restaurant, and Feng is very happy because of the delicious food he ate. And when they both say goodbye, Feng walks and goes to his house. And then he is shocked when he opens the door of the apartment and Bella finds that it is all destroyed. And then a person with blonde hair appears to him and comes out of his room while laughing a malicious laugh and says to him, It's very good that you finally came back. Bird Feng is very angry and says to him, It seems you are the person who called a while ago. So, the yellow-haired man answers while he is still laughing and says to him, I threatened you a while ago, but you did not listen to me. If you had answered my question from the beginning, none of this would have happened. At that moment, Feng looks at him seriously and says to him, Tell me now who sent you here? But the yellow-haired man does not answer him and laughs provocatively at him and says to him, How can a mere trash person like you dare to talk to me like that? Suddenly, another person appears from behind Feng and attacks him with all his strength without him noticing. But Feng is able to notice him and evades his attack with ease. Then, he hits him with an elbow in the face. A very strong hit that makes him hit the wall and lose his temper all of a sudden. The yellow-haired man is very terrified by what happened and does not. Musadik and Hannah Feng are counting his clothes and looking at him with confidence and saying to him, "Let me repeat my words again and ask you about the person who sent you." Here the one with the yellow hair gets very nervous at that moment and says to himself, what happened is definitely impossible because the reports that came to me clearly stated that this boy should have only 1 star and also that he is supposed to be a magician, so how did he manage to kill a 3-star killer with his own hand? But then he comes out from behind us. Back is a ninja star with him and he always throws it at Feng, but Feng still easily evades it, and this star hits the wall behind him. The person who turned yellow this time is at the peak of terror, so he always tries to escape with all his speed and says he is heading towards the balcony to jump from it, but Feng at the last moment grabs his leg before he can escape, and then he hits it and films the balcony, and he tells him that you have to fix everything you did first. After that, and after a while, Feng keeps yelling at them to make them please what they ruined, but the yellow-haired man then stops crying and says to him, "We did everything for you, and we gave you everything we could, and we don't have anything else to offer you now." Feng looks at him seriously and says to him, "In this case, it would be better for you to admit who sent you here." This person replies to him while crying again and says to him, "We sent him here. So the magician Zhao, the young master of the Lion Guild, told us that you have a rare emblem, so he sent us to look for it." When Feng hears his words, he starts laughing a very evil laugh while talking to the magician and says to him, "Since you started it, don't blame me for what I'm going to do to you." Then he goes and casts a forbidden spell called Darkness on the 2 people in front of him, seizing the soul and this spell, so that people use their own mind energy to manipulate the target's mind and can also temporarily transform him into a very powerful version of himself. Of course, we must not forget that whoever is doing this to him will be completely controlled at the same time. On the other hand, we go to the magician Zhang, who is walking with the shield warrior. He talks to him and asks if he has any new news regarding the badge they wanted. The magician Zhao replies to him and tells him that he has already sent it to the person named Feng, and if he refuses to cooperate with us, we will continue to torture him until we make him wish for death. The shield warrior worries at the time and asks him about what they will do if Juan discovers their plan. The magician laughs at his words and tells him not to worry because I will be able to take care of everything at once. But we definitely do not want her level to develop on her own. The gap between us in strength remains large. The shield warrior gets very nervous at that time and tells him, "Of course, what you are saying is true, but unfortunately, her change of profession was not as simple as you imagine, because she is facing the consequences now." The magician gets upset again and tells him that the basic plan was to let Juan deal with the head of the gate alone, and this was going to happen until only hurt her with a simple wound, and then I would have intervened myself and saved her in a heroic situation for her. But I never imagined that she could be reckless and risk herself like this and get seriously injured just to be able to defeat him in the meantime. And as soon as they finished talking, they were both surprised when they found the person with yellow hair whom the magician had sent suddenly appeared in front of them. The guard shouted at him at that moment for scaring them like that, and then asked them if he had done the things he had asked him to do. The person with yellow hair ignored his question and asked them if he was really the reason for his injuries, and that he was like what the 2 of them were saying. At that moment, they were shocked by the words they'd said, but the magician immediately hit him with a pen on his face and said to him, "It seems that something happened to your mind for you to dare to interfere in the affairs of the person with yellow hair." Here at that time he was at the peak of his anger, and we know because of the spell Feng is basically the one who controls him, and at that time he makes them attack them and grabs them both by the neck. At that time Feng addresses them with his tongue and tells them that anyone who dares to hurt Juan does not deserve to live in this world. But despite that, I will not even let you die easily. And indeed, he is here and keeps torturing them and keeps strangling them with his hand with all his strength, and this is what makes them scream from the amount of pain until in the end, and because they are not able to lose their lives, the 2 of them and the 3 of them immediately become news after that time. Feng talks to himself and says since these three idiots have become news now, then there should not be any evidence about what happened today. But despite that, the situation this time was very dangerous because my apartment was located in a residential area, and for that reason I am not able to control to wake people to enter or leave it, and despite that I have the power to protect myself, but I can't watch my apartment all the time. Besides, I was urgently going to prepare some things regarding the memories I take from the leaders of the mysterious world. Fortunately, I hadn't started yet because if those two knew anything about them while I wasn't around, it would have been a big problem for me. He then gets up from his seat excitedly and says, "It's better for me to arrange this now and go to Villa Du because I'll be safe with him there. Besides, the villa is very luxurious." After some time passes and night falls, Feng actually goes to Villa Du, and when he tells him what happened, he explodes with anger. He tells him, "Relax now and I'll see who was behind this matter and I'll spend it." Living responds while sitting on the couch and tells him, "There's no need for us to rush into this matter because in reality, there was something else. I want to ask you for a medicine." And here he is talking to him about this thing and asking him if he knows any good chemists. Du is surprised by his request because he does not know what expectations he can expect from a chemist. But then Feng explains to him. He tells him, "I want someone who has high skills in chemistry. We can be honest with him, and it is better for this person to also be works freelance." Du starts thinking about his request for a while and tells him, "I know a lot of good chemists, but unfortunately they are all already in teams and do not fit your specifications." At that time, Feng feels frustrated and says to himself, "Among the memories that I absorbed were in which the leaders of the mysterious world killed a very large number of high-level chemists. And at that time the recipes they had were very high, even higher than our world by a lot. But by luck I do not understand anything in the recipes they have because I am not a chemist like them. And for this reason I did not present any option other than copying them and discuss it with someone who is an expert in the subject. But the problem now is that in our world, as soon as a chemist joins a large team, he immediately loses his freedom. And for this reason, if I told him to help me, he might leak any information to anyone. And for this reason, it would be better for me not to lie to the flies who would be annoyed that this is from the beginning." He directs the talk to Du after that and asks him to talk to him if she has anyone with the specifications he told him about, and they know that he will also ask other people about this subject. And here he goes and calls Peng to ask her as well, and at that time they are surprised that she actually knows someone with these specifications. She continues after that, and they find out that the brother of the priestess who is on her team is considered a very skilled chemist, and she tells him that he wanted to join our team from the beginning, but unfortunately he had a fight with the magician and left. Feng is frustrated with the problems that this magician always causes, and he says to himself, "It is fortunate that I helped Wang get rid of this magician. This way, it won't cause her any problems in the future." Wang continues her words and asks about the reason that made him look for a chemist. Feng tells her, "I just found some recipes in my house and I'm looking for someone to help me test them." After a while, Feng starts walking and goes to meet this chemist named Zhu. When they get to know each other, Zhu immediately gets into the subject and asks him to show him these recipes. At the same time, outside the house, the priestess is very upset because she wanted to get to know Feng first, but her older brother didn't allow her to do so and had thrown her out of the house because of her annoyance. Zhu then begins to examine the recipe papers that Feng has and tells him that the ingredients of these recipes are very normal, but the methods of the technique are different and very complicated. Then he asks him if he knows what effect this potion can have. Feng replies to him and tells him, "According to my memory, it increases points. Experience 100%. Zhu is very shocked and does not believe his words and tells him that the experience potion available in the stores now can only increase experience points by 40%, and despite that, it is considered very expensive. But if there is a potion that can actually increase it by 100% like you say, then this means that the newly awakened will be able to rise in level quickly." Feng responds to him and says to him, "But I am not sure of the effect of these potions greatly, so that is why I asked you to help me. Zhu understands his words and asks him to wait a little bit until he goes upstairs and does the experiment himself, and then he calls his sister to serve tea to the guests until he returns again. While they are sitting like this and enjoying themselves, they are all surprised when they hear a screaming coming from the floor above them, so they immediately take each other to go up and see what happened. As soon as the priestess comes out, she is surprised when she sees the lime that her brother uses for experiments running while screaming and very scared, and suddenly a very strong gunshot appears by him that destroys the lime completely, and makes the three surprised by what happened. At that time the chemist looks at them happily and his finger is sticking out of fire, and he says to Feng the experiment really succeeded, and the effect of the dosite turns out 100% as you said. Feng is happy at that time and says to himself, since this recipe succeeded, then surely the rest of the recipes I have will succeed as well. And here the chemist so goes and uses the fire attack again and thinks about the office in front of him, and at that time he is very happy and excited about his new strength, and this of course makes his sister very shocked by what is happening, because he apologizes to the point that he does not let anyone enter it, but now he does not care and he is destroying it from the amount of joy. After that, time passes and they sit together again, and the chemist and Finn do not know why, and the priestess are under the influence of the potion, which is what makes them shocked and not believe their words. But Zhu silences them at that moment and tells them to lower their voices and keep this matter a secret between us. Then he looks at Feng and says to him, "What exactly do you intend to do with this recipe?" Feng is very confused and keeps thinking to himself and does not know what he is supposed to do. But suddenly his thoughts are interrupted when he finds that Teacher K sent him a message on the class G group, and she tells them in the message that the school is preparing a secret trip to the city next to them, and this is of course to raise their level, and she asks them to get ready as soon as possible. At that time, Feng looks at the words of his friends at school, who are clearly very worried because they will not be able to enter the college due to their level. Feng returns to talk to the chemist after that. While he is still looking at his phone, he says to him, "The truth about the potions, I intended to give them to the people close to me first before I planned to sell them." The priestess was very happy when she heard that and asked him if she was one of the close people he was talking about. Feng replied to her and said, "You are one of them." The priestess flew with joy and could not believe that she would finally develop her level. But Feng kept thinking to himself and said, "A very advanced potion like this, if it suddenly reached any store, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. On the other hand, my wealth suddenly increased, then this would turn attention and suspicion towards me again. Tell me the reason for this. I have to use it on myself and the people close to me first in order to strengthen my level. At that time, when I am like this, no one will even dare to frown at me." He directed the words to Wang and the priestess again and knew that he intended to include the fierce axe among the people who he will try the potion. So Kahina loves something like this very much. And this is because the fierce axe was urgently worried that he would not be able to join a good college because of his level. At that time, the chemist returns to talk to Feng and asks him if he has any other potions other than this one. Feng replies that he has them and will give him some recipes, but the chemist gets very nervous when she sees them because some of the ingredients in them are the first time he has heard of them. In addition, there are some recipes that he will not be able to make because of his current level. At that time, Wang complains to them, since the situation has become like this, that they summon the fierce axe now and develop their levels altogether. After that, she talks to the chemist and asks him to prepare the potions for them as soon as possible. Time passes with us after that. We go to my place on Monday, and Feng is standing alone in the street with his bag and calls Wang and tells him that he has already arrived. At that time, Wang apologizes to him on the delay, and you tell him to just stand in your place, and I will try to come to you in a little while Feng is standing like this. The school bus passes in front of him with his colleagues, and as soon as they see him, as usual, they start to make fun of him for not coming with them, and they wonder if he works as a porter now with the bag he has. And here after a little while, the students actually arrive at the place of the gate that they will train at, and as soon as They get off the bus. They are very surprised by the large numbers of Arbin that are in front of them in your house with the teacher all the time, and they ask about the time they will be able to enter, and the teacher K responds to them and tells them we can enter after 2 hours because we are in the second batch and we will not be able to enter first and at this time. And while they are standing like this, they are all shocked when they see Feng has actually arrived at the place they are. Know this also, at that time, he will go and enter the gate before them. And this is what makes them get very angry and say to the teacher, "Why is this boy? He's coming with the Lion Guild, that's why he can enter the secret world directly." And here, as soon as the brown-haired student hears these words, he gets very angry because he is stronger than him. However, Feng will enter before him. No, he will not only enter like this, but he will enter with the beautiful girl, who is Wan. As soon as he finishes speaking, he explodes. This is the girl who is ranked 5th on the list of new rivals. This student responds to him and tells him that she is indeed her. As soon as he hears this, the person he is talking to goes directly to the gate with his team. He tells them, "It seems we have come to the right place." As soon as they enter the gate, the student gets angry. The one who responded to them because of their extreme arrogance and does not know the reason for our behavior in such a way. The girl standing next to him is also surprised and says to him, "How come you do not know them?" Then she begins to get to know him and tells him that these three are like the student Wang and are ranked on the list of new rivals. She also tells him that the girl who her hair is purple, so she is Chang, who is ranked 4th on this list. And the last person who remains in the second classification is his name Yuns. The scene then moves to the depths of this dungeon, and there is the fierce axe. They are surprised by the experience potion, and he does not believe that its effect is 100%. Here, the priestess gets angry at him and hits him hard to lower his voice before anyone hears him. The fierce axe apologizes to her and talks to Zhou, and asks him if this potion is expensive for its effect to be like this. The chemist so turns to him and tells him that in reality, the materials for its manufacture are not expensive at all. And also its technical method is not considered very complicated. However, because of its effect, this is the thing that could make it expensive, and because of something like this, Feng could join any large guild very easily. At this moment, the fierce axe thanks Feng immediately and tells him to communicate with him directly if he needs anything in the future. Feng gets really angry at that time and tells him there is no need for you to act so politely with me since we are on the same team, and Aang notices what happened, so she smiles to herself and says Feng doesn't seem to be very good at socializing because he doesn't have many friends, especially after he failed in his first awakening, and this is of course due to the fact that all the students in the school started to make fun of him. And because of this he became more isolated from the world. And it is very rare for me to see him talking this happy, and I hope that he stays like this always in the future. After that she started talking to all the team members and tells them our situation is completely different now because we don't have a defender or even a cause of harm, so that's why we have to be very careful in the interviews we will enter. She starts here telling them about the plan after that. And when she finishes her words, Feng gets frustrated very much and he says to himself that the promotion in this way will be very slow, and for this reason I will have to walk with Wang but not more, but in the end this will be a very good opportunity for me to understand more about the capabilities of the team with Ni and how they are working. At this moment they are facing the first group of monsters in front of them, so all of them immediately activate their skills. And they keep finding them one after the other, and when they finish this they are very happy at that time from the amount of experience points they get, and especially the fierce axe, which he does not believe because the method he is working with now will be able to get him to the second transformation quickly, and finally he can achieve his dream and join a good university as well. But here, and as soon as he finishes thinking, they are all surprised when they hear a laughing sound coming out of the cave next to them. And at that moment the person whose name is Yuns, who is still laughing, says to them, "I'm sorry I couldn't control myself when I found out a person who hasn't even reached the second transformation is talking about joining a high university." The fierce axe and the priestess are shocked when they see him and are very surprised by what they are doing here. At that moment, Wang approaches them and says, "We came here to raise our level. Do you want something from us or what?" Yen's replies. We only came all this way specifically to ask you if you are interested in joining our team. The Fierce Axe and the Priestess are very shocked by his words because the magician had always warned about this matter, but the surprise here is that Wang refuses his offer and tells them, I don't need it because I have it, and Zhu's special. Team surrenders and says to her, I know that the magician who is ranked 14th with you is also on the team, and although his ranking is considered low, we can allow him to do so. He also wants to join you because of you. Wang responds to him and she is upset and says to him, I have already told you my opinion. I am not interested in joining any team. Yuns calms her down at that time and tells her to try not to rush into rejection. This is because due to the strikes that were happening in the mysterious world recently, the universities raised their standards and this year they are only accepting the very special people and places. Will be limited. This is a rare opportunity for all the newcomers to reform their team, and this includes Zen as well. For this reason, we want you to join us. His facial features suddenly change after that, and he talks to her very seriously and tells her not to forget that you are destined to be strong. As for those with you, they are a group of weak people, nothing more. Wang gets very angry at his words and immediately takes out her cup immediately, but Yuns calms her down and says don't be so excited because you definitely don't want to fight in this place. The priestess at that time will also try to calm her down and ask her to ignore his words and go develop themselves in another place. And then Wang listens to her words and they all start to walk, and then Feng thinks to himself and says, it seems that this person was looking for trouble. But now, I'm just coming to a new profession after the first transformation. And I don't know if I'll be able to defeat him or not. But suddenly something happens and Bella realizes that the person with muscles, whose name is Le, blocks his way and talks to him and asks if he is the person whose name is the magician. But Feng responds and tells him that he is not that person, and then Le allows him to walk while laughing at him and telling him, we don't need a trash person like you in anything anyway. Feng gets very upset by his words and goes to activate his aura, but suddenly the Fierce Axe intervenes and stands in front of him while shouting at the person whose name is Lei and says to him, you are overstepping your boundaries in an exaggerated way. He leaves mocking him and spitting on the crowd. And he says to him, how do you think you can stop us alone? And then quickly he attacks him with all his strength and throws him far away, and Hanj tries to save him at that moment, but the person whose name is Enzo stands in front of her and prevents her from passing, but at that moment the Fierce Axe reassures and tells her that he is fine and asks her not to come near them at all. And then he remains sitting on the ground and he feels very severe pain in his chest because of his ribs that were broken in this last attack, and he also gets up annoying Living and asks him to run away immediately, because he does not want to be hurt by these people at all. The person whose name is Lily in front of him keeps provoking him more and tells him that he is useless, so the Fierce Axe keeps his nerves at that time and gathers all his strength to attack this person. But he is shocked when he looks and Bella finds him attacking him very quickly as well, and he will not be able to repel his attack, and here Ding and the priestess are activated their skills quickly to try to decrease, but at that time Feng is the one who intervenes and Levish attacks him with his hand with all ease. Everyone here is shocked, and they are in the peak of astonishment from something like this, and especially Yan, who is unable to move and does not understand how a magician has such power. At this time, Feng grabs his hand and spins him in the air and throws him far away with all his strength to the point that he breaks the cave wall and drops rocks on him, and then talks to him while laughing and says to him, I wonder if you know who is useless now or not. Yuzu gets very angry and marries his colleague and is still going to attack Feng, but Wang from behind grabs her bow and hits him in the back immediately, and he falls to the ground as well. And this is what makes the girl who is with them and whose name is Chang be very shocked and does not believe that they were actually defeated by people less than them. At this moment Feng is a bit upset because now he is forced to reveal himself and show his true strength. Then he talks to the priestess, who is still an onion, and asks her to stop being so stunned and go now to treat the Fierce Axe quickly. The priestess actually hears his words and does so. Where does he go to the Fierce Axe and asks him about the way he wants to deal with this person. The fierce axe responds to him and says to him, I don't know, but I can carry out your orders. And that's it. Bing is surprised. How did he suddenly treat me with great respect? Then he laughs a malicious laugh and asks him to go and take all his tools and consider them compensation for what he did. The fierce axe actually listens to him, but Wanzo objects to what is happening while he is still lying on the ground and says that this is considered theft. But as soon as he finishes his words, he dies of joy when he finds Feng hitting the ground, the one in front of him, with all his strength, and asks him to repeat what he said again, and here Enzo changes his mind immediately from the fear and tells him in reality my equipment is not bad too if you want to take it too. He ignores Feng and Bio talk to him again, and he is very upset with him and tells him consider yourself lucky but this time, but if I know that you are planning revenge at any time in the future, then know that I am the one who will eliminate you myself. Enzo calms him down and tells him what happened was our mistake from the beginning because we were not able to get to know a strong person like you, and we deserve what happened to us now. At this moment Changna is not waiting for anything to happen and tells Feng my equipment is in front of you if you want it. Feng responds to her and tells her this is the behavior I am waiting for, and then he protects his friends who are with him in the team and tells them let's go no from our level. And really after a while they walk and go to a different place, and then Wan talks to Feng and says to him I wanted to bring you here to raise your level, but I didn't know that you were that strong in the first place. Feng looks at her and laughs and says to her you know that I was awake for a short time, and if I had shown my true strength then I would have lied to pay attention and nothing more. Wan gets annoyed with him and says to him you look like you don't want me to know what happened to you so that your strength increases, but anyway since you don't want to tell me then I won't pressure you because you've always been like this. She puts her hand on his shoulder after that while she laughs and proudly and says to him in any case I am very happy for you. In the meantime the fierce axe and the priestess run towards him, and they are very happy and ask him if he has chosen the university he will join. Actually Feng looks at them and says to them I actually haven't decided yet. Something like this makes both of them agree with his words and tell him you are right because a strong person like you does not need to rush into a decision like this at all. So the university you choose will definitely accept you right away. At that moment, Finn talks to himself and says in fact, all universities and unions have very strict laws and it will be easy to reveal secrets there by mistake. And for that reason, and as for me, I think that I don't need to join any of them. He then talks to the whole team and he is very excited and tells them, let's go directly to the depths of the world now so that we can develop our level faster. They all listen to him here and it works for a long time without any objections. After a period of time, Feng goes out of the gate and returns to Duzville again, who is very happy that he saw him. But at that time Feng talks to himself and he is very frustrated and says that after all the hard work that he did, he could only leave the level once, and without the dose of experience that he also took, his progress would have been much slower than this. But after that he doesn't think about this matter much and thinks that he can relax and enjoy his life a little to lift himself up. Indeed, for the next few days, he stays sitting in the villa and plays with Du, sleeps, eats and drinks only. Literally, he never left the villa at all. One day, while he was having a party with his wife, he suddenly received a call from Yang's assistant, who told him that the mall was going to hold an auction in the coming period. There will be really cool tools in it, and she asked if he was interested and wanted to come to something like that. Feng replied to her while yawning and said to her, I have a lot of money lately, so I might come to you and see if there is anything I like to buy. Yan understood his words and told him that she and the new manager, whose name is Tang, will come to his place now to review the first auction list with him. Feng agreed to this matter, and he was surprised and upset if their service was always this good. After a while, the two of them actually arrived at the place, so the manager Tang fell in love with Feng, and he was nervous and said, before I came here, Mayor Gay gave me special instructions to serve this young man well. According to him, the entire auction was held for this person, then there wouldn't be any problem for him. He then talks to Yang and asks her to quickly give the list of tools to Feng so he can look at them. Yang accepts his words and shows them to him. At that moment, Feng keeps looking at the displayed tools with extreme boredom because they all seem useless to him. Suddenly, he is shocked when he sees something strange, which is that his experience potion is among the displayed tools. He immediately asks Director Tang. He is upset about where he got it from. The director replies to him nervously and says, "We bought this item from the Tang Rookie Guild auction." They then ask him if there is anything wrong with it. Feng is surprised, because the guild he mentioned is supposed to be very famous and one of the largest guilds in the country. At that time, he is wondering if the chemist sold them his secret recipe, or he also guesses that they might have forced him to reveal its secret. After that, he talks to the manager again and asks if the guild said where he got the potion from. The manager replies with a laugh and says to him, "I heard that they discovered a new type of mysterious world called the Court of Kings. Only one person can enter it. This world is divided into many floors. After completing the first 10 floors, you can get a random reward. In the end, this potion was one of the random rewards." He is surprised by his words and says to him, "This is the first time I've heard of a world the way you're talking about. If there really is a world like this, it might be one of the distortions that have occurred in the worlds recently. In addition, according to the regulations and laws in any secret world that is discovered, all information about it must be recorded on the website." The electronic of the awake ones at that time. Feng is reassured a little because the chemist did not appear to be a house or anything, and he is eager to know more information about the world of the royal court that he is talking about. And as soon as he finishes thinking, he is surprised that this mission is to find the world of the royal court and enter it within 60 days or his dome will be destroyed. Feng laughs here and says to himself, "This is the first time the system gives me a mission, and it seems that this royal court has something really wonderful." And after that he talks to Director Tang and tells him, "I am sorry, but I will not be able to attend the auction that you will hold." They reassure the director and tell him no problem, but if you need anything in the future, do not hesitate at all to contact me. And then he talks to himself and says this dose of experience is the most important element in the auction, and there are a lot of guilds interested in it, and I never expected that Mr. Feng would not give him any attention at all in this way. During this time, it is noticeable that Feng is very interested in the world, so he decides to relax and gather some more information about this world himself. But Feng refuses and insists that he must go and search with him. At that moment, Du takes out his laptop and opens the website for the mysterious worlds and is able to find information about the world of the King's Court. But he discovers that the gate there is completely secured and prevents anyone from entering. At that moment, Feng talks to himself and says that normally the gates of the large guilds are dealt with in this way, but if I am not able to do this mission as the system said, then I will lose my life completely, and for this reason, I think I will need to think of a way to enter the world. After a period of time, he takes some time and actually goes to the location of this gate, but there he is surprised when he looks at Bella and finds that the guards are still there, even though it is very late. But he does not care and is satiated with the skill of moving. Hish was laughing and he really appreciated the time that he was moving himself behind them and getting married easily and directly. His house is near the gate to enter it. But as soon as he gets close to it, he is shocked when he finds a very strong explosion that happened in front of him suddenly and sand far away. At that time, the union employees were surprised by the explosion that happened near this gate. Meanwhile, Feng transports himself to his apartment while he is severely injured and does not understand what exactly happened to him and why a very strong energy suddenly rushed from this gate to the point that it broke his shield and also caused him an injury. Here he is shocked again when he finds a message coming to him from the system telling him that the system was trying to contain this explosion, so it caused damage to the system itself. At that moment, the percentage of damage to the system increased until it reached 34%. On the other hand, the guild leaders go to the gate to see what exactly happened. There, they find the guards who were on it unconscious, but they were not injured. As soon as he regains consciousness, the guild itself explodes. The master is the one standing in front of him, and they ask him about what happened. The soldier then turns on him and says to him, "In fact, I don't know anything except that there was a very loud explosion at the entrance to the mysterious world, and after that, I fainted immediately." Mr. Ho was very surprised by his words, because nothing like this had happened before in the world, and he wondered if it was possible that anything strange was happening inside the world itself. At that time, the witch behind him was talking to him and was killing her to use her skill to know exactly what had happened. The president actually agreed to her suggestion. Here, the girl activated the time reversal skill and began to rewind timer on the gate. Meanwhile, Mr. Ho was thinking to himself and saying that fortunately the mysterious world has very good features because it is not only able to store images inside it, but we can also use it to go back in time to review the events that happened. Here, as soon as he finished thinking, time had already returned in the place. At that time, Mr. Ho was shocked when he looked, and Bella found that a demonic body had suddenly appeared in front of him in the place, and this body was trying to enter the mysterious world. But at that time, a king with a golden shield prevented him, and he said to him, very angry, "How dare you invade the land, evil king?" Here, he attacked him with his skill and was able to hit him, but the evil king was also able to escape quickly, and for this reason, the king was very upset and said to him, "I must find you as soon as possible so that you do not destroy the world more than this." At that time, everyone present was very shocked by this matter and immediately held a meeting in the city with the rest of the guilds immediately to discuss what happened. After they saw the pictures, the head of the Weiyu's guild, Mr. Liu, addressed everyone present and said to them, "According to the pictures recorded by the Sangru Guild, this is the first time we have confirmed the existence of a king. And although his identity is unknown, judging by the magic he used, he has actually reached the level of forbidden magic. He is speaking Harimer, Ark, the head of the Age Guild, with Mr. Hu, and he said to him, if I remember correctly, the boist rewards from the kings if a certain number of rolls are passed in it." Mr. Ho responds to him and tells him that the information inside the gate says this indeed, but we never expected that a real king would appear at that time. The head of the Zhuan Guild, Mrs. Yu, speaks and tells them the important thing that we must focus on now is that the forbidden magic itself was not able to destroy the evil king. And this is not good news at all. Mrs. Liang, the head of the Wanshu Guild, confirms her words and says that if the evil king decided to destroy the world, then now no one will be able to stand in front of him. Mr. Wang, the head of the Illuminati Guild, enters the conversation as well and tells them that since passing these rolls gives a reward from the kings, is it possible that there is any reward that we can use to deal with this evil king or not? The head of the High Flame Guild, Mr. Chang, responds to him and tells him that your idea is a very good idea and deserves it. The experiment must be given a chance, but the master gets annoyed at that time and says to himself, these people have set their eyes on the world of secret experimentation for a long time, and they look like this. They want to take advantage of what is happening in order to allow them to enter, and then he will respond to them. He is still annoyed and tells them that I have no objection to anyone entering the world of the secret experiment, but I must warn you that the monsters inside are exceptionally strong, and with our current strength, we will not be able to overcome them easily, and I believe that we are still not able to sufficiently reward these kings. At this time, Mr. Liu directs his words to the person whose name is No, and who has not spoken since the beginning of the meeting. And they ask about his opinion on the matter and about everything that is happening. Mr. Liu responds to him when he is annoyed and tells him, I don't have anything to say. Mr. Liu tries to calm him down and tells him, don't get angry like this because we were called here because there is something urgent. We discuss it. Mr. Wu replies to him while he is still angry and says to him, this is only for you. But as for me, I will not forget when my student informed you about strange things happening in the city, and you completely ignored him at the time, and all you did was send a team to investigate. Nothing more. What happened in the end is that you did not pay any attention to this matter seriously, and this is what led to the emergence of major disasters in the end. If it weren't for the presence of the mysterious strong person in our city, there would have been very innocent people who were harmed. Mr. Luo becomes very frustrated at that time and asks him to try to calm down because his head is on fire again. At that time, Mrs. Loon was talking to herself while looking at him and saying, "I heard that Mr. No and repeated his retirement because he would not be able to pay the price of using the mysterious energy anymore, and I never expected that I would see him here again." Mr. Lu returns to talk to Mr. Lu again and says to him, "I beg your pardon, but ask your student to show this video to the mysterious figure in the city because a strong and mysterious figure like him could definitely turn out to know anything." Mr. Lu laughs at his words and says to him, "Why are you taking my student seriously now?" Mr. Lu hopes in his words and says to him, "Don't worry, I have at boxes full of the best types of drinks, and I will send this box to you later. And we will return yours as well for all the achievements he has achieved at that time." Mr. Lu immediately returns to his normal form again and actually agrees to his suggestion, and the scene shifts to Feng, who is sitting on his bed in Du's villa, and at that moment, he is talking to himself and saying, "I still haven't finished the mission of reaching the second transformation that appeared to me. However, the system brought me a new mission, and this wasn't considered a big problem for me before the last night, which was terrifying and which has yet to be solved." Now, he doesn't understand what happened. He leaves his room after that, and when he goes out, he finds Du sitting with guests. At that moment, Du starts talking and starts to introduce him to them, and tells him that this person is Mr. Law, the former president of the Shadow Lonely Guild. And now he holds the position of the president of the Awakened. He also introduces him to Sala, and tells him that this is Mr. Law's symbol, and she is the current president of the Shadow Lonely Guild. He understands that these two came here to ask for your help. Feng is then very shocked when he hears Mr. Law's name. They ask if he is the flaming skull known as the white-haired Mr. Lao on his words and tells him that this is just a nickname for him and nothing more here. Feng starts talking to himself a little and says that this person has many achievements and participated in purifying a large number of powerful mysterious worlds and is known to be the strongest mutant in the world. Almost all the people in the Lone Shadow Guild keep their identities a secret except for Mr. Law because no one would even dare to frown at him. At this time, Mr. Law interrupts his thoughts while laughing and says to him, "I know that this is the first time we have met, so forgive me for not giving you a gift that suits you. But I knew that you are about to take the college entrance exams, so I brought you 5 million crystals and also 200 bottles of high-level experience potions. I wish you all the best in your exams ahead." Feng here is very shocked by the number of crystals this huge guy who is presenting it to him and immediately talking to him and saying to him what brought you here. Then Sela takes out the projector from her and says to him, "We wanted to know your opinion only about this video, nothing more." And at this moment, and as soon as she starts showing it in front of him and where he sees it, and is very shocked because he finds himself to be the evil king they are talking about in the video, and then he sits thinking to himself, and he is upset and says this, "I'm just a normal student in high school, so how did I become the evil king suddenly like this?" And then he keeps cursing this system because it is the reason for everything that is happening to him from the beginning. But after that he tries to calm down so as not to expose himself because no one knows this information yet, and here he directs his words to them and tells them not to worry, I will send this video to the strong mysterious character immediately and I will inform him as soon as he responds to me. They thank Mr. Law for his help and he asks him to call them directly if anything new happens. Sela at that time, you will also go to see at the card through which he will communicate with them. But they are surprised by the card, and he looks at her picture and says to himself, "I just now remembered. Because this girl is the one who was the receptionist in the shift hall." Then he goes, slapping his hand on his face in frustration, and says to himself, "I am not surprised now. Why were you exposed so quickly?" After that, Mr. Lao and Sala started taking each other and leaving the place. "Your house is Mr. Lao." With her, the young man named Feng tells her that he looks exactly as you described him, and that he means he is a humble person and not arrogant at all. So we must not waste time, and let him join us by Price returns a basket to him and goes to ask him if he thinks that Fang and the mysterious person are the same person. Mr. Lau responds to her and tells her that this will not be important now. And in general, since this Fang wants us to look at him as a student, who is he? It's better for us to do this, because if we do the opposite, and he turns out to be the mysterious person, then I don't know how we'll be able to deal with him in the future. Besides, the enemy has now started to become much stronger, and we still don't have enough power to enter the secret gate and get the rewards from the kings. So it would be better for us to just pretend that this mysterious person agrees to help us in the end with the problem we've fallen into.